Sac City. Welcome in to another edition of Pigskin and Pancakes presented by the Sac City Podcast. I am your host, the one and only Vinny Milani, joined as always by my best friend in the whole entire world. He is Aaron the Mukesiah Mukes. And below us we have your boy, my boy, and everybody's boy. He is AJ Johnson. It is a beautiful November 27th morning here in the city. We've got fantasy advice heading your way, bringing you all new segments, all new content, and so much more here today to help you guys win your fantasy matchups and your fantasy championships. Playoffs are quickly approaching, and I'd say we've got a lot of big things on the horizon to help you guys win your fantasy championships moving forward. So stay locked in, dialed in right here at the Sac City Podcast. Gentlemen, you guys ready for some fantasy football?
Ready to get them chips.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I haven't even looked at my lineups because they're so fire. They already set. You thought I was going a different route? No, not at all.
Shout out to the Sherwood Christian Academy Eagles. Put on for the 8-man football state champions here in Georgia, baby. I'm already a champion. Wow. They gave me a shirt. So we rocking with it. Sherwood Christian Academy Eagles. Shout out to them.
Wow. What a guy. What a guy here with this plug. Wow. All right.
Yeah, you mentioned championships, so I had to throw one out there because,
I'm just disappointed. You said Bainbridge lost, and I know nothing about Georgia high school football, but I know that Bainbridge is a thing, and they lost, so they've disappointed me, and now I know nothing about high school football in Georgia even more.
So that makes now you know nothing about high school and nothing about the NFL. Wow.
And I know nothing about college, and I know nothing about sports in general. Everything I know about sports in general is wrong. That's why
you did say Ohio State could beat Georgia, but they couldn't even beat Michigan. So that's true.
I did say, and I do still stand by that statement. I think that Ohio State. I don't think my opinion has changed on that. But yesterday we did see a lot of college football action. Alabama defeated Auburn in the Iron Bowl, which is fantastic. And hey. Still an outside chance that they make it to the college football playoffs.
That's how you know it's rigged.
Yeah. Not all of us could be given a big fat dub against the Florida Gators on Friday night.
It's really hard to do. You should try.
Yeah. We've got a great show ahead of us, though. We are going to be breaking down Aaron's fantasy rankings, who's the rising and who is falling in his rankings. We've also got our start sits. We've also got a couple new segments today that is going to help you win your DFS matchups and possibly win some money. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's go into your fantasy stock report. Alrighty, it's time for the fantasy stock report, and this is where we break down Aaron's risers and fallers on his rankings. He dropped them on Tuesday. If you missed the show, shame on you. But if you missed it, we're going to come and give you round two, basically, of his rankings with some risers and his fallers. You don't get the whole rankings, though. You have to tune in on Tuesday. It gives you a reason to tune in on Tuesday. Why aren't you tuning in? That's shame on you. But this is where we break down the guys that are rising and falling within your rankings. We start off at the running back position. Lots of big movers within your top 12 running backs, Aaron. Here's some of your notable risers and fallers from that group. Ken Walker goes from 10 to 4. Derrick Henry 3 to 5. Aaron Jones 11 to 6. Jeff Wilson Jr. 13 to 7. And then we've got some interesting names here, and these are the ones I kind of want to start off with. Rachaad White, the running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, matched up against the Cleveland Browns today, goes from not ranked at all on Tuesday to number 9. And James Conner goes from 19 to 11. Aaron, I want to start off with Rachaad White. Obviously, going from not ranked to 9, or from not ranked to on this list is understandable with Leonard Fournette being out and the hype being there. But you're not only going from not ranked to on the list, you're going from not ranked to an RB1 in his first game as a starting running back this week. Take us through your thought process on Rachaad White being an RB1 in week 12.
Yeah, well, the first thought process is obviously we've had a number of players play. Dalvin Cook, Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard. A lot of these guys have already played. There was 3 games on Thursday. So when we're looking at these rankings, we have to take that into consideration. That's a big part of the movement this week. There's a significant amount of jumps up in the rankings or down in the rankings because of those players that have already played. But we're talking about Rachaad White. We've spoke about the volume of Leonard Fournette, and although the running game in Tampa Bay doesn't seem to be what it used to be, we've seen them get involved in the passing game, especially those checkdowns that Tom Brady loves so much. And then last week we saw Rachaad White play 64% of the snaps, or at least the week before the bye week. Fournette gets hurt. Rachaad White saw the bulk of the carries, had 22 carries, 105 yards, only scored 10 fantasy points because he didn't get in the end zone and he didn't get a target. But I think, again, with no Fournette today, you're going to see him get the majority of the snaps, which is going to breed a lot of opportunities. And I love the matchup today with Cleveland. Cleveland's not good against the run. This is a team that consistently gives up. They're the second worst, giving up almost 25 fantasy points a game to the running back position. I think this is just a prime matchup. Plus, again, the heavy volume that you're going to see from Tampa. I do think Tampa Bay wants to run the football more despite the lack of production. So I think you're going to get a good day out of Rachaad White. He's one of my stars today. So keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, and it's one thing. It's like you mentioned the fact that with these lists today, there were a lot more games on Thursday than what we're used to seeing. So a lot of running backs are going off the board. We saw Zeke, Saquon, like those guys off the board here. So guys are moving up and shifting up because of that. But the jump for Rachaad White here was not just simply, oh, okay, guys didn't play, so now he moves it. Like, it just moves up in the chain. Some of the running backs on this list, you can say, might have benefited from that. But Rachaad White not being one of those guys, because you go from not ranked to top 10 running back, like that's not just because of some guys playing and some guys didn't play. So lots of confidence in Rachaad White this week. You did drop Derrick Henry, though, and that's actually the exact opposite of, okay, guys already played, so people shift up. Derrick Henry, known for being a great running back in the NFL, actually dropped this week, going from 3 to 5. I'm not going to send this question your way. I'm going to hit AJ with this one. AJ, what are your thoughts on Derrick Henry and his matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals? Maybe you think Aaron's wrong here. Maybe you think he's right. What are your thoughts on Derrick Henry versus the Bengals here?
I mean, this is going to be one of those hyped up games going up against a Cincinnati Bengals defense who's played better as of late against the pass and against the run. The thing that worries me about it dropping, and on this show we nitpick a lot. There's been multiple times where I point somebody out. It's just been, a rank up. They're still in the top 10. You're talking about a guy moving down to top 5. My worry, we know the potential of a Derrick Henry. He gets strong as the game goes on. So in the second half, if they continue to let him run, I do see him still breaking away. I just don't think you're going to be seeing one of those coveted Derrick Henry winner 200-yard games or anything of that nature. This could very well be one of those games. You looked at him a couple weeks ago where he carried the ball about 22 times and only averaged about 3 yards a carry. That's another possibility against a Cincinnati team who's looking to take off the top of the AFC North, and even against a divisional rivalry, a hyped up one against their playoff foes last year. I think they're looking to get the better of them and prove that last week wasn't a fluke. So luckily it's Derrick Henry. You're just tempering expectations from him dropping it from 3 to 5. But I'm not worried about a Derrick Henry.
Yeah. I don't think the worry is there, Aaron. I just think that definitely dropping him, there had to be something that went into that, right? What was that factor that went into Derrick? Was it just as simple as people jumping up ahead of him, so he dropped, or is there something that's there with Derrick Henry this week that maybe people are not seeing? That obviously he's in your lineup, but something that you have to temper your expectations on?
No, I went back and I looked at some things from the Cincinnati Bengals defense, scheme-wise, that really matches up really well against Tennessee. I also went back to last year's playoff game where he went 20 for 62, fell into the end zone, which was, boost that total a little bit. But he struggled in that game. The Tennessee offensive line's not as good this year. They've lost a lot of pieces. We're not sure if Ben Jones is going to play today. I still have to figure that out when they do actives and inactives. But I think a culmination of all of those things led me to think that maybe I have to just downgrade him just a tick because he might not have the day that we think he's going to have. We saw this last week with Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans. They teams will sell out to stop Derrick Henry and gonna make Ryan Tannehill beat them. And Tannehill's been able to do it at sometimes, but I think that's the Bengals' game plan going into this game, and I expect them to focus on Derrick Henry, therefore not leaving him much room to run. Like AJ said, he'll get his because he's Derrick Henry, probably fall into the end zone once, but that upside might be capped because of the type of defense that the Cincinnati Bengals want to play.
Yeah, I want to just disagree with you on this. I'm gonna come at you just because I mentioned this on Friday when we were previewing this game, and it's the lack of a certain player on the Cincinnati Bengals defensive line that has been a huge impact player for them, and that's DJ Reader. Without DJ Reader over the past 6 games this season, averaging 135 yards per game rushing allowed without him, 4.6 yards per carry over the last 5 weeks as well. They're allowing the 5th most yards per game over the last 3 weeks. And I think that Derrick Henry, like you said, he can fall into the end zone. Like that's like something that you almost expect to happen. But the yards in the game for Derrick Henry is going to be a huge as well. I do see him eclipsing over 100 yards in this game and finding the end zone. So that's obviously a great day in terms of
put it on the board. Derrick Henry under 100 today.
Derrick Henry over 100
already today. On the board.
Put it on the board.
Already on the board.
On the board. Derrick Henry over 100. Derrick Henry under 100. Let's take a look at your RB2s here. Lots of risers here and lots of guys that are coming from not ranked to ranked here. Antonio Gibson goes from 17 to 13. David Montgomery 21 to 16. And then comes the guys that were not ranked on Tuesday that have jumped up. And really, this is where you could say it's because of the guys that have left this list from Thursday Night Football. But there's a lot more with some of these players, though, that deserve talking about, including the 2 rookies this year in Isaiah Pacheco and Kyren Williams, Aaron. What are your thoughts on those 2 guys this week, at least for fantasy, for fantasy owners in terms of confidence in playing them in their lineups?
I'm not overly confident. I do think the volume should be nice for both of them, but I'm not overly confident in either one of them, which is why I have them as back-end RB2s. Number one, the matchups are not great. Both Kansas City, first of all, Kansas City is going to be playing. This is 2 guys that are playing in the same game. Kansas City should be playing from ahead. We talked about the explosive offense, which means Kyren Williams is not going to get the opportunity to carry the ball very much, I don't think. I think it's going to have his value is going to have to come in the passing game. But then you talk about Isaiah Pacheco. I do think the volume is there for Pacheco, but he has to score touchdowns. And let's be honest, when we get to the red zone, it's a lot of 2-point conversion style plays for the Chiefs. They like to run Mahomes on some sprint outs. Kelsey might line up in the backfield. Mahomes likes to throw touchdowns. And if he's not a benefit of catching one out of the backfield, then it could be a rough day for him as far as total fantasy points. Even last week, he had 15 carries, 107 yards, but he only scored 10 fantasy points because he didn't get in the end zone. He didn't get a target. And as a matter of fact, he only has a target in 2 games this season. One he had 2 targets and one he had 1. I think Jerick McKinnon is that throwing third down running back there. So unless he gets into the end zone, his upside is going to be capped. Because I don't think he's going to get much work in the passing game. And same goes for Kyren Williams. The offensive line's just bad, and their offense is just not good in general. We don't know what we're going to get out of Bryce Perkins. So you have to worry about upside when we're talking about these back-end RB2s. But like I always say, when we're talking RB2s, it's not great. Like when we look at, we think an RB2 is supposed to be putting out all this high fantasy volume and output, but when you look at the actual numbers, it doesn't really happen that way. So I think if you can get to double digits and have an opportunity maybe to get into the end zone, I think you're looking at a little bit of a different narrative or conversation. So I expect a good day, but I don't expect a day where it's too significant. I want to say most RB2s are going to be sitting around the 12, 13 point mark. And if they can get to that, they'll be fine.
So there's an argument I want to start here because that's what I love doing. AJ, I'm going to play spoiler a little bit for later on in the show. You like Elijah Mitchell this week. Elijah Mitchell is not in Aaron's RB 1 or 2 group. And those guys that we just named are obviously. What do you think about Elijah Mitchell Elijah Mitchell is not in your top 24 running backs.
AJ doesn't like Elijah Mitchell. He actually sits Elijah Mitchell.
Oh shit, that's on the other side. Oh goodness, we got to organize this differently. I am not going to go this route, we can proceed. AJ, it was a good thing you were muted because there is no need to discuss this. Real quick, Aaron, Gus Edwards in this game, in the game against Jacksonville, coming back from injury. Just real quick thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think we saw it last time we saw Gus Edwards coming back. I think Baltimore's pretty good about not bringing a guy back unless they feel comfortable in him playing. Last time he came back and he played, he had 16 carries for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he didn't play a lot, but when he's on the field, he's usually touching the ball, and I think that's the important thing. The following week, he had 11 for 65. Probably going to find the end zone. He is their guy that they give the ball to on the goal line. I like him as a back-end RB2 as well. Upside, again, still limited.
All right. Yeah, I am actually starting Gus Edwards in a league this week because I am down Joe Mixon and I have poor depth at running back because that's my own damn fault. But that's good to hear about Gus Edwards going up against Jacksonville today. Let's switch it over to the wide receiver position. Your notable wide receiver movers here, wide receiver 1 movers, I should say. Again, noting that Thursday Night Football happened. The guys are leaving this list. But some movers, some big-time movers come really at the top there with Terry McLaurin moving up from 22 to number 4. That's where I want to start here first, Aaron, because McLaurin 22 to 4 is similar to what I just said about what's the running back we were just talking about? Why am I forgetting his name already?
Elijah Mitchell, guess what?
No, the one that
Rachaad White.
Rachaad White obviously goes from not ranked to top 10. That's a big deal. That's not just because of who played on Thursday. Son of a bitch. God damn it. Terry McLaurin, 22 through to 4. What are your thoughts on that big move?
Terry McLaurin's been playing well. I think the connection with him and Taylor Heineke, again, a lot of my rankings on Tuesday, the week prior just ends. I come out with my initial rankings, and then I do a lot more in-depth research in what I want to do. Obviously, Atlanta's really poor against the pass, worst in the NFL. Last week aside, because he didn't play very much in the second half, they were blowing out the Texans. They were running the football a lot. Prior to that, he had been really, really good. He had 28 or almost 30 targets, 28 targets in 3 games. He had 19 catches over the 3 games, 200-yard games. And he wasn't even finding the end zone. Like, he's not even scoring touchdowns at this point. He only has 2 touchdowns on the year. That's below his expected touchdown rate. We kind of got off of Terry McLaurin a little bit because the first 5-6 weeks, it wasn't pretty. And a lot of that had to do with Carson Wentz. But since Taylor Heineke has taken over, it's been a lot more significant uptick in targets and uptick in production. And I think things are going well between him and Heineke. So I really, really like the matchup despite Atlanta's wanting to run the football. They are porous against the pass. And I think it's going to be a struggle for Atlanta to stay on the field on third downs because of the run defense of Washington, giving Washington more offensive possessions and allowing McLaurin to get some more opportunities. So this was more of a just when you went back and I looked at my list and I looked at the matchups and I looked at what McLaurin has been doing, I felt like I probably slighted him on Tuesday, probably should have been somewhere, like back end wide receiver 1 to top end or wide receiver 2 just off of Jump Street. And then when I actually dove into it, I thought he significantly needed to jump up because of the people that played on Thursday as well. So he probably more of a movement of like 11 to 4 than it is 22 to 4. But that's where he was on Tuesday. So it seems like it's a big jump.
All right. Wide receiver 2s here, your jumpers. Brandon Ayuk goes from not ranked to 16. Lots of another group of not ranks hop on your board here. Again, has a little bit to do with Thursday, but some of these guys, I mean, 2 rookies here in Garrett Wilson and George Pickens. AJ, I'm gonna throw this one at you. What do you see from Garrett Wilson today with Mike White as the starting quarterback now for the New York Jets, with Zach Wilson obviously getting benched earlier this week? Mike White's time, Garrett Wilson, the rookie wide receiver, highly invested rookie wide receiver. He goes from not ranked to 18 on Aaron's list. But what do you see from the rookie standout?
Yeah, it seems like when Mike White is in the lineup, they actually throw the ball a little bit more frequently. Of course, I have last year to think about for that. But Mike White came out and kind of surprised the world last year with that first game, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say he went stupid. Didn't he have like 275 and like 3 or 4 touchdowns or something like that in his first game? Like, if I recall, Mike White had himself a day the first time he came out. Now, I don't think that's what we expect from Mike White coming for his first start, but there's a reason they started him over Joe Flacco. There's a reason he was the first guy up. I expect him to spread the ball out a little bit more this upcoming 1 o'clock game, I guess. I was going to say weekend, like we're not already there. And of course, now going with Chicago, playing against another backup QB. You got the battles of the backups and defense that has kind of been reeling. I'm hoping that Garrett Wilson, a breakout guy who's shown a lot of flashes early on in the season, off and on, if he can get the targets, if he can go back to something, like his week 3 where he's getting double-digit targets, or even you go down to 2 and 3 weeks ago, week 8 and 9, where he's getting about 8 or 9 targets, ironically, that's a good enough day for him to put some production on the board. And I think with Mike White and the passing offense prowess with these rookie receivers and these talented receivers, that's something that's very much on the table for Garrett Wilson.
Okay. All right. Aaron, any comments on Garrett Wilson or any of the rookie? You have 2 rookie wide receivers hopping in now. George Pickens over Deontay Johnson is one of those, but obviously I think that one's almost pretty self-explanatory, right? George Pickens now the favorite target for Kenny Pickett.
No, there's a little bit more to that than just saying he's the favorite target, because I don't think there's a favorite target. I think first of all, having to go up against Stephon Gilmore is a problem. Deontay Johnson will see Gilmore more than Pickens, I believe. However, I think the biggest thing here, I want to talk about Garrett Wilson, is it doesn't matter who's at quarterback. You couldn't get worse than what Zach Wilson was doing at the quarterback position. So when they first came out, when Zach Wilson first came back from his injury, it was a struggle for Zach Wilson and Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson to get on the same page. It was 2 catches, 3 catches, 1 catch, 4 catches, but they started to get things clicking against New England and Buffalo the last couple of weeks before this last New England game. But we've seen the talent from Garrett Wilson. I don't think there's a debate or there's anybody that's going to deny that Garrett Wilson's still the number 1 target with the Jets. And I think the one thing that Mike White does give them is maybe a little bit more confidence right now. Zach Wilson is obviously not playing well. And if he can do it with Zach Wilson, he can do it with anybody. Like Zach Wilson had not been playing well. He's done it with Joe Flacco at the beginning of the season. I just think Garrett Wilson's the number 1. They're going to find ways to get him the ball, and he's going to be the beneficiary of a bad secondary. So he falls into that wide receiver 2 category.
Well, with the quarterback change in New York, I don't expect to see Mike White on your fantasy rankings, but let's take a look at the quarterbacks that do move up and down here this week. Kyler Murray goes from 11 to 4. You said it on Tuesday's show that if Kyler Murray is in and healthy, you'd see him around that number 4 spot, and that's where he is this week against the Chargers. Justin Herbert takes a fall to 8. Kyler Murray jumped up there, but that's 5 to 8 is not just because Kyler Murray jumps in. So I might ask you about that one, but the rest of this list, Derek Carr moves up to number 9, and then new quarterbacks enter the fold with the quarterbacks playing on Thursday. Jimmy Garoppolo enters now at 11. Marcus Mariota enters at 12. Aaron, let's talk Justin Herbert here, going from 5 to 8 this week, matched up against the Arizona Cardinals defense that has been they force the turnovers. They force the turnovers, but there's something else with Justin Herbert that you're seeing that makes you think, okay, 5 to 8.
Yeah, it's not really just about Justin Herbert. Like I said, a lot of my movement comes from other guys and diving into them. I boosted up Tua, I boosted up Kyler, I boosted up Geno, and then I also boosted up Joe Burrow. That's really why he falls. It's really nothing to do with Justin Herbert. I thought Justin Herbert's matchup was okay. It was fine. I thought Justin Herbert would be Justin Herbert. He's a good fantasy quarterback. I don't think he's special, but I do think he's a good fantasy quarterback. Arizona's not great against the pass, but this wasn't about Justin Herbert. This was about those other guys. Having Keenan Allen back helps a lot for Justin Herbert. But to me, it's more about Geno Smith. To me, it's more about Joe Burrow and then Kyler Murray obviously making that jump than it is about Justin Herbert himself. If you have Justin Herbert, you're starting him. I don't think you're trying to overthink this. And this, when I get on Justin Herbert, that's more of a real football winning type of thing than it is fantasy. Fantasy output, he's fine. He'll be a decent fantasy quarterback. But I do think he's not going to be able to elevate to that top 5 consistently. And that's going to be the same reason I always say. He does not run. He has the ability to run, but he doesn't. And we all know, we can look at the numbers. The best fantasy quarterbacks are guys that use their legs. It's as simple as that. It's not Tom Brady's an anomaly one year. Yeah. Can it happen? Sure. But Week in and week out, the guys who score fantasy points are the guys that use their legs. And that's a dual threat is just better for fantasy. And Justin Herbert doesn't use it enough for me, which means he has to throw a lot of touchdowns and get 300 plus yards. And that's hard to do in the NFL. So he's fine as a solid QB1, but I do think there's some other guys that have some more upside this week.
AJ, are you okay with the other guys that stand ahead of Justin Herbert? He's got Tua against Houston over Justin Herbert. You okay with that one? That one's
yeah, that one.
Geno against the Raiders over Justin Herbert.
I like Geno Smith a lot today, actually. But when you're talking about the Raiders so much, the worry doesn't come from their defensive side of the ball. You expect the offenses on both sides to have themselves a good day because the Raiders defense aren't really going to be able to stop many people. And I think with the week off coming, it feels like it's been forever since we've seen the Seahawks play. And I know they had their bye, but I expect them and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett to get right back to business after their loss to the Bucs over there in Germany. So
yeah, you're right. It does feel like it was a while ago that we've seen Seattle play because of the morning game, which we really didn't hit on that much. That game was something that it just seems like a long. Aaron, let's wrap it up here. Let's go to the tight ends, the stock report for the tight ends, your risers and fallers. Gerald Everett goes from not ranked to number 3. Tyler Higbee 6-4. The Muth 3-5. Njoku enters the chat. Kittle falls and Dulcich falls. I think the biggest thing here that I want to talk about is Gerald Everett with Bryce Perkins now at quarterback. Son of a bitch, it's Tyler Higbee now with Bryce Perkins at quarterback and the Chiefs matchup here. What do we expect to see from Higbee? So you're obviously confident you got him as a top 5 tight end this week. Tyler Higbee, Bryce Perkins relationship, what are you seeing today?
Yeah, I just think, young quarterback always likes to go to tight ends. And I think Higbee's one of their better receivers. Not only is Kuno Cooper Kupp, but now they are without Allen Robinson as well, likely not to play today. So you're going to be looking at a wide receiving core of Ben Skoranek, Van Jefferson, Brandon Powell, and maybe Lance McCutcheon that comes up. Higbee's going to be relied upon. So I think it's just a good spot for him to see volume. They're probably going to be playing from behind. He's going to have to throw the ball. And I think Tyler Higbee is the result of or is a beneficiary of the result of what they're going to have to do offensively for the Rams. And the Rams are a mess. And if you didn't believe me before, you should believe me now. You've probably seen the last of Matt Stafford. You've probably seen the last of Cooper Kupp this year. They're not going to play. The season is a wash. It's over. Get ready for some young guys to come in and make an impact. And I said this 2 weeks ago. Your guys' boy, Lance McCutcheon, he's going to get an opportunity to play here in the coming weeks. I don't know if it's today. I don't know if it's next week, but he is going to get an opportunity to play. Not saying he's going to be good. I'm just saying he's going to get an opportunity.
He's going to be good. He's going to be great.
For fantasy purposes, he may see some volume. I think he's still obviously going to play behind guys like Van Jefferson and Ben Skoranek, but he might get an opportunity to stand out. And when you get an opportunity, that's where you're supposed to run with it. This ain't preseason. He goes out in a regular season game and starts making a name for himself. You can find yourself with a spot on a roster and have an impact, going forward. So just keep an eye out for stuff like that.
AJ, Demarcus Robinson has started to emerge as one of Lamar Jackson's favorite targets, right next to Devin Duvernay. Demarcus Robinson this week against the Jaguars or Christian Watson against the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Demarcus Robinson in this one. I know the Jacksonville Jaguars have, been opportunistic on the defensive side of the ball. I have some thoughts on Christian Watson today, and I would lean to Demarcus Robinson. We got some reasons for you coming up a little bit later in the show, so stay tuned.
There you go. All right. Well, let's see if we can dive into those reasons. Let's play. Let's do a little start sit, gentlemen. Aaron, your starting quarterback this week.
Yeah, I don't ever like to say a guy has a must start if I really don't feel like he's a must start. But I'm pretty confident in this must start. To me, it's Derek Carr, and I'm gonna say Derek Carr not only because of building off of what he was able to do a week ago, but he does have a good matchup with the Seattle Seahawks, and I think this is a good day for Davante Adams. And I think this is why I'm leaning more Derek Carr than anything, is I think Davante Adams has another good day here. But if you look at what Derek Carr has done over the past 3 weeks, multiple touchdowns in every game, 300 plus yards last week. No, he is not turning the football over. I think he's starting to play.
Is this me or you?
What?
Is this me or you? Is this me or you here? You have Derek. AJ has Derek Carr.
Oh my
I was just gonna ball out with it. I could switch.
You know what I did? I was thinking Geno Smith in the matchup. They play in the same game. They're playing in the exact same game. I'm so tripping.
So on the funny part too, was I went to go, like, when I went to go do mine, I was like, oh yeah, Geno Smith is back. I'm feeling Geno this weekend. I'm going to put him in. I go look at the doc, and as we have for the last 3 weeks, Aaron also had the same thought process in QB. So I was like, I can pivot. So the fact that he said Derek Carr, I was like, all right, well, I was already gonna pivot. I
was rolling with it, and then but the funny part is I'm looking at Geno Smith's stuff when I'm talking about Derek Carr. So, anyways, Geno Smith, multiple touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. No, listen, I don't want to spoiler alert here, but this game is a very, very plush game for fantasy content, right? For fantasy players. The Seattle Seahawks Las Vegas Raiders is a great game. Geno Smith, I think, coming off the bye week, he's been playing well. There's no knocking what Geno Smith has been able to do. He's had multiple touchdowns in 7 of his last 8 games, 8 of his last 9 games, 8 of his last 10 games on the season have been multiple touchdown passes. Only 2 games where he didn't have multiple touchdowns, and they were both the games that he didn't throw a touchdown at all. He's been good, and he's not a heavy volume guy. He's not going to throw the ball 45 times, but he's been over 30 plus attempts. He has 2 weapons in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf with a really good matchup against Las Vegas Raiders, who are giving up second most fantasy points to the wide receiver position, only behind the AJ's fantasy team, AJ's team, which is the Atlanta Falcons. I think this is a good matchup for Seattle and the Raiders both. So I know I said Derek Carr. I know I said Geno Smith. Give it to them both.
Yeah, and then on the Derek Carr side of things, I just, we looked back at that stinker when everybody was over Derek Carr in Week 8 against the Saints, when at that point in time, they were a pretty good matchup. You saw the Saints, you were enjoying it. And he put up a pedestrian 2.9. But since that point in time, he's thrown the ball over 30 attempts each week of the last 3, multiple touchdowns in each game. He and Devontae Adams decided that they're going to do it by themselves with a little sprinkle in of that dog, Josh Jacobs, of course. So I like this as well. Seattle's defense, while they had their little stretch in that 1 month where they were playing lights out, and yes, they're still playing good defense, it is not a solid 60 minutes, no mistakes, shutdown defense. They do allow up the 11th most points to fantasy quarterbacks, and I think that's something you're going to see here is a middle-of-the-pack game, back-and-forth offenses, finding the end zone and finding their star players for big plays. I like Derek Carr as well. I like Geno Smith as well. This is a good game, good matchup for some QBs.
Fire up both quarterbacks in that matchup. Let's turn our attention to the running back. Let's turn our attention to sit quarterbacks, the ones that we're trying to avoid putting in our lineups this week. Aaron, who you got?
Yeah, we debated this earlier this week, I think, talking about Tom Brady and where the rankings for Tom Brady were. I'm sitting Tom Brady, and this is it's tough because you'll look at my rankings, and I think you have to rank him where you rank him. But I think there are some better options that I would go with this week than Tom Brady. I get it. Brady throws a lot. It's heavy volume. He's somebody that you don't want to be the guy that says, oh, I benched Tom Brady because he's been good. Not a bad matchup in Cleveland, but Cleveland's run defense is not very good. And I do think that Tampa Bay wants to get back to what they did last year, which is run the football a little bit and allow Tom Brady to then make plays with his arm. I think the difference here is they have some success in the running game. This is more of probably a gut call than anything, but he doesn't use his legs. He has to throw touchdowns, and that's really what's limited him this year is not being able to throw touchdowns. We look what Cleveland was able to do against Josh Allen, especially early in that game. It's not like Josh Allen had a big day, and Buffalo is far better than them. They only gave up 12 points to Josh Allen, and that was in Buffalo. That was in Buffalo. So I think Tampa Bay is going to have a little bit more of a struggle throwing the ball here. That pass rush with that offensive line, Myles Garrett and them can get to Tom Brady and create some chaos there. I think they want to slow that down. I look for the run game to be leaned upon by Tampa Bay. And I think Brady's upside is going to be limited a little bit. So I'm kind of shying away from Brady. I think there's some better options there.
Yeah, my sit is going to be a guy who, back in the day, aka last year, the season before, you never think about it, but this year he's giving you a lot of questions, and that's going to be Aaron Rodgers against Philadelphia. I think he's a sit candidate today. Say what you will about the thumb. I'm not going to harp in too much on that. He's played through it, whether that's been a reason or not. I'm not going to give that excuse. But what I will say is that Philadelphia is one of the best teams against the fantasy quarterback, and I think that's going to slow Aaron Rodgers down today. They're also third in the NFL with 33 sacks. They get at the quarterback a lot, and they just added a lot of veteran depth, some really good talent on that defensive line that I think is going to be able to get back towards the back to the quarterback and get at Aaron Rodgers a lot today. So I look at them playing against Philadelphia. They're averaging just 10 points and against the with the quarterback position. And Aaron Rodgers has yet to put up a 20-point fantasy football game this season. And no quarterback has scored 20 against the Philadelphia Eagles. So I would be looking elsewhere if you can with Aaron Rodgers. But if you have to start him, at least feel good in the fact that it's Aaron Rodgers, and apparently he's a bad man, something like that.
If you have to start Aaron Rodgers, then you probably don't have a good record, because I would imagine that you've had another option throughout this whole time. Maybe in a 2-quarterback league it'd be different, but yeah, I'd imagine in a regular standard league, if you're starting Aaron Rodgers, you're probably not doing very well, because I would have expected you to replace him by now, because he hasn't been good.
AJ, would you start Marcus Mariota over him?
I would.
Okay.
I would. He's got enough value with his legs.
Okay. I know, Aaron, I know your rankings. I know you don't have Aaron Rodgers even in your top 12 this week. So I knew where you stood with that Mariota question, but I knew that was the tail end of your QB1s on the week. And Aaron Rodgers is a guy that you probably draft. Even if you still have Aaron Rodgers on your team and you're in like a standard one quarterback league, you might not be in the playoffs anyways, because you invested highly in Aaron Rodgers and he's not returning on that value. No, I shouldn't say highly, not like a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, but you still took him in the middle rounds, and he's not returning on that investment. Let's go to the running back position. Aaron, who is your starting running back on the week?
Yeah, you're going to hear this name a lot from me, Rachaad White. It is Rachaad White. I just mentioned it with Brady being my sit. I think Rachaad White is my start for that main reason. I think Cleveland's rush defense is bad. One of the ways to exploit what the Browns do defensively is to run right at Myles Garrett. He likes to get up the field. But I think they lean heavily on the run game. Obviously, Tom Brady likes to check it down. You do have to have some concern about Gio Bernard or Keyshawn Vaughn coming in and taking some of the passing down usage away from Rachaad White. But I can see Rachaad White putting up 15 plus points here today. So I'm all in on Rachaad White this week. I think if you were one of the very few people maybe that were patient enough to kind of hold him or pick him up off of waivers and just kind of wait it out. We talked about Leonard Fournette probably not being able to play a full season, and here we are, and now you're probably benefiting from that. So all the Rachaad White owners, now's your time. Put him in your lineup and reap the benefits, because he's going to have a good day.
Yeah, probably another guy that we'll talk about. We got so much content for you guys today. I'm stoked. Another guy that I'm looking at for a start today is Jeff Wilson Jr. in Miami. Sure, call it the low-hanging fruit as they're going up against Houston, one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, 153.6 rushing yards a game at 5.3 yards a carry. Jeff Wilson has come into Miami. Mike McDaniel's happy to get one of his guys from San Francisco, and he's already been like the go-to back. Had 22 opportunities in his last game, went up for 119 rushing yards and added 24 receiving yards on the ground. Raheem Mostert has been a decent piece in that backfield, but he is out today. And we've seen what they do when it's Salvin Ahmed and Myles Gaskin as a backup role. I expect a lot of Jeff Wilson today. I think he's a fire-up start play because this game may get away from Houston pretty quickly, and then you look to run the ball a little bit or chuck it down to the backfield. So expect Jeff Wilson to be heavily involved today.
Yeah, no Raheem Mostert for the Dolphins today. That's going to be a big uptick for Jeff Wilson. Not that Raheem Mostert was eating too much away from Jeff Wilson in the past, but just more carries, more touches for Jeff Wilson.
Do you guys have any concern? Because I love Jeff Wilson this week as well. Do you guys have concern about Miami's style at times, where sometimes they don't want to run the football and they become just Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and then Jeff Wilson's this. If he doesn't score, or if you're not getting any checkdowns, that he ends the game with like 12 carries, 67 yards, and we're like, wow, how did you let that happen against a team that's absolute worst against the running back position in fantasy? Because I have a little bit of concern about this. I really do. Houston's secondary doesn't give up a lot of fantasy points to wide receivers, but the underlying numbers are terrible. They give up a ton of yards, the most completions, the most receptions from wide receivers. Like, they have a bunch of numbers that say receivers go off against them. They just don't score a lot of fantasy points because maybe other guys are scoring the touchdowns or whatever, because they're so bad against the run. I worry that Miami's the type of team, almost like Kansas City, where the running back could technically have a good day but not score fantasy points because they want to throw the ball into the end zone at certain times. So there's a little worry in there somewhere, because it's so good of a matchup, and I think it's supposed to be so great that if he doesn't score 15 fantasy points, I'm gonna be like, what a dud. Like, you know what I mean? Everybody scores on this team. There's just a little bit of worry that maybe he doesn't reach the expectation that he's supposed to. But
do you think this game is going to be out of hand early, or do you think the Texans are going to stay up with it enough to make it annoying?
As crazy as it sounds, even if it gets out of hand, then I worry that they try to give guys like Salvin Ahmed the ball more, and don't want to, because Mostert's already hurt, and you don't want Jeff Wilson to be taking all. It's like there's so many things that are in the back of my mind. Maybe because it's Miami and because they haven't had a real running game in 2 or 3 years, that we've always been like, well, they can't run the ball anyways, and now they kind of have one. That something just tells me to not get so excited, because I'm excited about Jeff Wilson today. But I don't know if I should temper that expectation a little bit. Just a little bit of worry. So I'm throwing it out there. Maybe nothing, but just a little bit.
Sometimes it could be too good to be true with certain matchups where it's like this. I mean, I was just looking at it with like what Houston's allowing to the running back position. It is just not. It's embarrassing what the fantasy running backs have been able to do to Houston this season. And Jeff Wilson is primed for a good day. But even with Mike McDaniels, though, like there's been time. Obviously, there's been years and seasons where Mike McDaniels loves to throw in a different running back just to spell the starter and take away from touches. And I did see your little sneaky little pickup of Salvin Ahmed in our fantasy league, Aaron.
That was more long term. That was more, hey, let's take a shot. Maybe if Mostert's injury prone. If Jeff Wilson goes down today, one thing I do want to have, I think it's important to have the running back for the Miami Dolphins on your roster. And so Mostert's down. I was like, you know what? Let's take a chance. Maybe Jeff Wilson gets hurt. And that next thing you know, the next man up is Salvin Ahmed. And it's nice to have that piece with an offense like that. So more of a flyer piece. We'll see if Mostert's back next week. Salvin Ahmed will be right back on waivers.
All right. Well, we talked about Mike McDaniels, former offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. AJ, I almost spoiled this earlier on in the show talking about this guy, but you're not high on the San Francisco running back. Obviously, it's not Christian McCaffrey, but go into it.
Yeah, this is just one of those things that it's one of those hard to trust situations. Elijah Mitchell came in his first week and everyone was excited, and they used him 18 times, and that's even with Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. And when you look back at it, I think that was just because nobody really knew how they would deploy an Elijah Mitchell, so it's hard to prepare for it. He comes back after a 2-month injury and being on IR, so Christian McCaffrey being a part of the offense, to Deebo Samuel having his piece, to George Kittle starting to start his run, to Brandon Ayuk being talented. And then you look at the second week he plays, and he has just 9 carries for 59 yards and no scores. This offense has so many weapons that it's hard. This is one of those real situations where there's only one football. And with it being so unpredictable for an Elijah Mitchell, because it's so predictable for Christian McCaffrey and the other pieces, I think it's really hard to go into this game and trust Elijah Mitchell to do much if he doesn't fall into the end zone. So against this New Orleans Saints defense, who is middle of the pack, but in one of those stretches where they're kind of finding themselves and making the right plays at the right time, I think you can look elsewhere for Elijah Mitchell with so many other options on the board. So just a sit for me today with Elijah Mitchell and that offense being so potent with so many different weapons.
Yeah, I agree with that take. we've talked about the Elijah Mitchell, Christian McCaffrey thing, and you'll notice all of my Niners are downgraded, and it's not because they're not good. Everybody except for Christian McCaffrey is going to take a hit because there's so many weapons there. For me, it's Cordero Patterson. Yes, sorry, AJ. Cordero Patterson is my sit of the week, but it's more than just that they're playing in the Washington Commanders, whose defensive line is one of the best defensive fronts in football. We've watched Cordero Patterson's volume go down. We've watched him become more and more touchdown dependent. They're not involving him in the passing game. I think on the season he has like 11 catches, which is not like him, and 5 of those came in the first week of the season. He doesn't have any receiving yards. I think he has like 30, 40 on the season. He's not getting involved in the passing game. His snap percentage has decreased. He's only playing about 40 to 50% of the snaps right now. I don't know if that's injury, but or if it's because they want to get other guys involved, and Cordero Patterson's age is starting to show. Even though when I watch him, he looks like he can run just fine. I can't trust what he's giving, and I can't trust that he's going to get into the end zone. So for me, Cordero Patterson's got to be a deep flex. Last week, I know he scored in double digits, but he was only 10 carries for 52 yards. And if he doesn't score the kick return touchdown, he's at 5 points. So I think there's a lot of concern there for Cordero Patterson going forward. I know people that are like, oh, you got to go trade for him. It's a good buy low candidate. I disagree. He has New Orleans, Baltimore in the playoffs. He's not getting the volume. He's not in the passing game. There's so many negatives about what Cordero Patterson is bringing right now. I think you have to look elsewhere for some running back help. I am not on the Cordero Patterson train. Touchdown dependent, low end RB3 for me if you're in a deeper league.
Yeah, you faded him even after he had that big game when he returned from injury, and you were even fading him then. You said trade away your Cordero Patterson. That's what you said after that big game. So this isn't the first time that you're mentioning this, and now you're starting to run into those matchups that you have to be concerned about with Cordero Patterson. Not even just
he has his bye week. Like they still have to have their bye week. If you should have Cordero Patterson should have been traded after they played the Chargers. Like you should have looked at the schedule, and the schedule's not terrible. Don't get me wrong. There's matchups there that are good matchups, but looked at the schedule mixed in with the lack of volume, mixed in with being touchdown dependent and not being involved in the passing game, and an offense that's not really throwing to the running backs. I think it was just a good time to trade him, and they should have moved. And you should have moved on from him. If you haven't, now you just keep him on your bench unless you need a deep flex play.
Yeah. AJ, I'm going to throw this one up to you. We've got 2 questions here from XYN. Full PPR, Travis Etienne or your start of the week, Jeff Wilson Jr.?
Isn't that funny? Because while I had Jeff Wilson as my start of the week, and I love what he's going to bring to the table, Etienne's just got too much volume in that Jacksonville offense for it to go the other route in this situation. When it comes to Jeff Wilson, he is going to have to get involved after a Tyreek Hill, after a Jalen Waddle. Travis Etienne is going to be the go-to guy, and then they'll pepper in Christian Kirk, and then Zay Jones will get about 4 or 5 targets. But what Travis Etienne's been doing over the last month or so is too hard to let go of. I think in this situation that I would start Travis Etienne.
That's tough. I think they're back-to-back in my rankings. I think I have Jeff Wilson slightly ahead because of the matchup. Baltimore hasn't given up. They don't give up 100-yard rushers. Etienne is different, but Baltimore's defense is good. I don't think you're wrong either way. But I will say this. I will say this. I think Jeff Wilson has a higher ceiling today than Travis Etienne. And I think that's why I lean Jeff Wilson. But that floor could also be very, very low. I would tell you this. If you need steady production, if you say, hey, I just need to grab 12 points or something like that, this is what I want from this guy, I'd go Travis Etienne. I think he's safer. However, if you said, hey, man, I need a big day from Jeff Wilson, or I need a big day from my running back position, I'm going Jeff Wilson.
And let's stay on the Jeff Wilson train here. Jeff Wilson or Najee Harris in half PPR?
I'm not a big fan of Najee. You guys know that. I'm the offense for Pittsburgh is kind of give me Jeff Wilson. And I don't think it's that close. I think it's easier for me to just take Jeff Wilson with Miami's offense against that Houston defense.
I double down on that as well and go Jeff Wilson Jr. And I think if I'm me, and I know XYM might be a little torn on this, saying it's a toss up, and with the ETN and Jeff Wilson talk that we just had, if I were to kind of come down the middle here, I would take the safe play in ETN. I like, obviously it is matchups, but I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway from what was said is that if you need that big breakout game, it's Jeff Wilson. If not breakout game, but if you need that big game, it's Jeff Wilson Jr. If you need that solid, consistent play, it's going to be Travis Etienne, because he's going to get that. Watch out for Darrell Henderson, man. He's playing in this game.
Baltimore only allows 14 fantasy points to the running back position. That defense is different for me. They've always been really good against the run. And a team like Jacksonville, I just worry. I mean, look at the guy like people. I don't say ETN is Deonta Foreman because they shut down Deonta Foreman last week, but like I could see Doug Peterson just dropping back and throwing the ball a ton, and the only way then ETN becomes valuable is if they're getting checkdowns out of the backfield, so I worry about that. Yeah. It's tough, but like I said, I'm more of a. If you're gonna swing, if it's such a toss-up, you're gonna swing, you might as well swing with the guy that has the upside to me. So that's why I go Jeff Wilson.
Baltimore allowing the fourth fewest points to the running back position this year. That also was a scary one. Let's shift back over to we appreciate the comment here, XY, and be sure to subscribe. Make sure you tune in every day of the week, live during the week in the morning. You'll be able to see us here giving you your fantasy advice.
You don't know what time we're live? We're live at 9.
We're going 9? Okay, so yeah, tune in live at 9 a.m. Eastern time right here at Sac City Pod on our YouTube page. We appreciate the comment. Everyone watching, be sure to drop your start-sit questions in the chat. Let's shift back over to our starts and our sits of the week. We've already done our start, sit, running backs, and quarterbacks. Let's go to the wide receiver position here. And AJ, I'll let you start this one off here. Who is your starting wide receiver this week?
Yeah, I got a name that I think we've been waiting to see in this segment here. And for my start receiver, I'm going with Michael Pittman. They got a juicy matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who allowed a lot of PPR points to fantasy wide receivers. With Michael Pittman and Matt Ryan back in the fold, he's their clear-cut guy. Yeah, Paris Campbell has been strong with Matt Ryan, but you look at last week when Matt Ryan only threw the ball 32 times. Pittman got 7 of those targets and caught 6 of them. He's been averaging about 10 targets per game, about 7 catches per game, and with the Pittsburgh Steelers, 71% of their fantasy points go to the wide receiver on that defensive side of the ball. Yes, I know TJ Watt's back. I know that may cause some problems for Matt Ryan, who drops back, and the way TJ Watt gets in the backfield to get sacks. But I think with Michael Pittman, this is that game we've been waiting for against the Pittsburgh Steelers secondary and defense that hasn't been that strong. I think you can be very, very certain that Michael Pittman's going to get a lot of looks, and I think he's going to convert some of these today. I like Michael Pittman for my start of the week.
Good pick. I'm going to shock the world. Well, at least I'm going to shock the Sac City podcast. My start at the wide receiver position is Chris Olave. Yeah, I said it. It's Chris Olave. Yeah. And it's against the San Francisco 49ers. And everybody's going to be like, oh, my God, the Niners defense, they're so good. Bad matchup. It's not. If you're going to exploit the 49ers anywhere, it's going to be in the passing game. Wide receivers are not bad against them. They're in the bottom half of the league in fantasy points per game of wide receivers, but more so than anything, it's just they don't have a lot of weapons in New Orleans to attack. It's Alvin Kamara, it's Chris Olave, and then you throw in Jawan Johnson for touchdowns. So, but what Olave has done from a fantasy standpoint, his production has been there. He's a guy that's consistently he's had 5 catches in 4 of his last 5 games, been over 50 yards receiving in 4 of his last 5 games. He's got the ability to get in the end zone, 3 touchdowns on the year, just right at his expected touchdown rate for the season. 21 points a week ago against a Rams defense that does employ Jalen Ramsey in that secondary, and there's nobody on the 49ers secondary that has the skills or ability of Jalen Ramsey at least. And I think they're going to be playing from behind, so they're going to have to throw the football. They're not going to be able to run it very well because it's the 49ers. As you can tell by my rankings, Alvin Kamara's stock is way down. Give me some Chris Olave against the San Francisco 49ers.
The world is coming to an end.
I never said anything about Chris Olave's fantasy production.
Clouds rolling in. Dark lightning
I
outside.
just don't think he's that great of a receiver to where like first round, like Justin Jefferson game changing or Jamar Chase like changes the impact of a team winning and losing. I don't think he has that. I think he's just a guy that if you throw him the ball enough, yeah, he's going to catch it.
Good fantasy option this week, Chris Olave.
Yes.
AJ, who are you sitting this week at the wide receiver position?
All right, it's that time. This week, I am sitting Christian Watson. There's a couple of different things that factor in this. One, obviously, is they are playing the Philadelphia Eagles, who has, again, one of the best secondaries in the NFL. But really, this is and Aaron will love this because he talks about it all the time. What Christian Watson has done has been unsustainable. He's got 5 touchdowns in his last 8 receptions. You look back to the last 2 weeks, he's only caught the ball 4 times in each game. If he doesn't fall in the end zone, he's going 4 for 48. You're looking at an 8.8 point game. That's a wide receiver 3 status, which is okay. Don't get me wrong. Christian Watson should be on your bench. You should have him going forward. But we had no buys this week. That allows so many other receivers that you can probably play and probably have chosen to play over Christian Watson. If you do have him in your lineup, I'm not saying he can't fall in the end zone. I'm not saying he can't, catch 5 of his 7 targets if that's what he ends up getting. I say it's not what's likely to have. You look at even last week when he did his big game, Allen Lazard still got 11 targets from Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is still looking for the guy that he knows and trusts the most. If I'm not mistaken, Randall Cobb is still okay and is healthier than he was when he came back last week. That's a guy that Aaron Rodgers trusts a little bit more. So Christian Watson absolutely should be on your roster. I don't know that you want him in the lineup, whether he sees Darius Slay, whether he sees James Bradbury, whether he sees CGJ. There's a lot of secondary power for the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you can find another receiver who's going to get you more targets and can garner a little bit more trust, I would look elsewhere than Christian Watson.
Yeah, I love that point about bringing up Randall Cobb and Allen Lazard. If they were injured, maybe then you're talking a different story because you get more volume. But obviously those guys are the every down go-to guys. You're looking at Christian Watson to make a big play. Maybe a DFS play if you're looking for something deep, a long ball because they'll probably take their shots with him. But I agree. If he's in your lineup on a redraft or regular leagues, you're probably going to be struggling today. For me, it's you talked about one guy in that cold Steelers game. I'm going to talk about another guy, and this goes to Vinny's point about why can't I think of his name? Anyways, Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson for the Pittsburgh Steelers is my sit of the week. Look, I love Deontay. Everybody knows here I'm a big Deontay guy, but I'm assuming he's going to get matched up a lot with Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore's still been really, really good at the cornerback position. He's got a young quarterback. I think George Pickens is going to be the beneficiary of this. For who they're going to really try to attack is that other side of Stephon Gilmore, and then the middle of the field with no Darius Leonard being in there, and Pat Freiermuth. So I think they're the beneficiaries in this one. I think Deontay Johnson has a struggle. He's struggled in general already. The connection with him and Pickens doesn't seem to be there quite yet. We've still seen him get targets. He's had 5 targets in every game. He's had 4 catches in every game for the past 6-7 weeks. But the high level production we're used to is just not there. So can he be a deep flex play if you really needed somebody? Sure. But I think there's some better options out there. Like AJ mentioned, this is a full slate of games this week. So 3 have already been played. There's still 13 games between today and tomorrow. And I think you can take advantage of some other options with some better matchups, but also some guys that have been more consistent than Deontay Johnson's been. So he still plays 90+% of the snaps. He's on the field. So you got to understand that opportunity is key. And he may have one of those games where he goes 8 for 100 and a touchdown. It could happen, but he hasn't done it yet. So I'm going to lean on the side of that history and say he's going to have to show me before he's back in my lineup. And I'd stay away from him this week.
So someone you do have ahead of him on your rankings personally, that I will ask AJ if you'd start him over, if you're comfortable starting him over, is Curtis Samuel against the Atlanta Falcons. Are you comfortable starting Curtis Samuel over Deontay Johnson, AJ? Would you do that?
I would. And now with that being said, that's one of those situations we were just talking about where if you're looking for a guy that might surprise you and get you more points than you expected, it's a Curtis Samuel. They use him in so many different ways. They allow him to run the ball. They allow him to catch the short passes and create for himself. Ron Rivera really likes him and knows how to use him. And it's against an Atlanta defense that you can find the holes in quite easily, even with AJ Terrell and Jalen Hawkins being back. So I think Curtis Samuel has the more potential on a week like this than Deontay Johnson has. It just hasn't been a good year for Deontay Johnson with Kenny Pickett, and I'd rather trust the hope side in things in this week.
Okay.
It's the funny thing about a guy like Curtis Samuel is he's very similar. He's like the DeAndre Swift of the wide receiver position.
Right.
He doesn't need a lot of touches to bring fantasy value. And if you look at his points per touch, it's so significant that if you're looking, hey, if he touches the ball 4 times, they're putting him in good situations to create fantasy points. He's had double-digit games, multiple double-digit games this year. I think it's every game except for a couple. He's been in double digits, and he doesn't see the volume. Like, he's only got 4 targets, maximum 4 targets over the past 4 weeks. 2 of those have been double-digit games. And he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. He's only got 3 touchdowns on the year, at least from the receiving game. But they find ways to get him involved in particular situations that allow him to gain big yardage or get into the end zone. And that production allows a guy with low volume to still have some fantasy relevance. And I like that. And then obviously it's the Atlanta Falcons. Maybe AJ Terrell locks up Terry McLaurin. I doubt it, but maybe he does. And then the other guy is Curtis Samuel that's getting the benefit of that. So
could be good days all around for the Commanders wide receivers, but maybe not a good day for the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver and Deontay Johnson. AJ, you're firing up a teammate of Deontay Johnson as a start of the week. Who you got?
I am. We are headed to the tight end position, and the Muth is gonna get loose, buddy. Pat Fryermuth is going to be my tight end start. Over the last 4 games, 30% target share. That leads the team in targets. He got 35 targets over the last 4 weeks. Last week had a season high of 12 targets. He's been a guy that Kenny Pickett has been looking for. And we talked about this early in the season when Kenny Pickett gets in. This is a guy that's a security blanket, a guy that he can trust to throw the ball to and knows he can bail him out of some situations. The Colts, while they have a decent defense, they're middle of the pack against the tight ends. A guy like Shaq Leonard, who can do it all, is not playing. And he's one of those guys that would worry me about Pat Fryermuth being over the middle. I don't think you have to worry too much about things of that nature from the Colts defense when it comes to the tight end position today. The volume that he's been getting is just too good to pass up. Fantasy football for me is what's likely to happen. And I think it's likely that you're going to get the same amount of targets for Pat Fryermuth around the 8 or 9 target area this week. And I like him to catch a lot of those passes. And who knows, maybe we get lucky enough and one's in the end zone.
Yeah, for me, it's a name we haven't really talked about all year long. It's Noah Fant. Noah Fant. So part of the reason I'm saying Noah Fant is, number one, he's on the field. I like that. Number 2, I love the matchup. The Raiders, they're the Raiders. But we've seen, I don't want to say it's been picking up, but we've seen him be a target of Geno Smith at times. Plus, he's the most athletic one they got. As bad as he's been for the course of the year, not many double-digit games. He's tight end 24. I guess you could say a tight end 2 for a guy that doesn't see a lot of targets. I do think he gets a lot of targets in this game. We saw a couple of weeks ago against Arizona. He went 5 for 96. That's the ability that Noah Fant has. He's really athletic. I'm more of maybe this is more of a streaming option here, but as I say every week with tight ends, if it's not Travis Kelce and if it's not Mark Andrews, throw a dart, pick one, and one of them might hit, one of them might not. Fryermuth's a more solid option, but I want to go. If I'm picking a tight end, if I'm looking like I'm going to start a tight end that I think could have a day. And you can't really go wrong in who you pick. But I think if you look at upside, I think Noah Fant has some of the more better upside than some of these other lower end tight ends. So give me Noah Fant today, maybe more on a whim. I think Seattle has to throw the ball here a little bit. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. Noah Fant finds a way to either get in the end zone or get double-digit points. It could be 5 for 65. It could be, or he falls into the end zone one time. But double-digit points today for Noah Fant.
Don't lie to me.
What?
Don't lie to me. You said that there's not a tight end. You could be wrong. There's something about tight end. You can't go wrong just throwing one in. There's tight ends that you can go wrong with. There is tight ends you can go wrong with. That's my segue into your sit tight end of the week.
There are. Yeah, there are. I'll go first with my sit tight end, I guess. My sit tight end is Cole Kmet. Without Justin Fields, it's one thing. He's actually picked it up pretty well. But another thing is they play the Jets, and I don't know where the Jets rank against tight ends. I'll be honest, but I don't care because no team really ranks good or bad against tight ends. It's like 13 points is the maximum points a game given up to the tight end. Who cares? No, that doesn't matter. It's the Jets. The Jets defense is really good. Trevor Siemian is really not. And I think as a result of that I want to stay away from Cole Kmet. And people might have been getting excited with what Justin Fields and Cole Kmet have done over the past couple of weeks. They've been able to connect a little bit. He had 4 targets in each of the last 3 games. He was 30 yards plus receiving. He's had 4 touchdowns in 3 weeks, 5 touchdowns in 4 weeks. Yeah, that ends today. Don't get excited. Cole Kmet today. Put him on your bench. It's not going to be a pretty sight.
Yeah, a guy that I liked a lot when he first got started. I'm sitting today. That's the Broncos tight end Greg Dulcich. Came on really strong to start his NFL career. They used him immediately the first 3 weeks. Double-digit points in those first 3 weeks that he played. But since then, it has kind of gone downward. They'd had their bye, and then he came back and had 4 targets, 1 catch, 11 yards. Then last week they did look his way, about 5 targets, caught 4 for 30 yards, but that was about it. The thing that worries me, one, is last week, if you couldn't get it done with Russell Wilson, I don't know that you ever will again. And Clint Kubiak, if I'm not mistaken, has taken over. Nathaniel Hackett gave up the offensive play calling duties, and since that has happened, they have not really looked Dulcich's way. When they do, it's not for much. You look at his yards per target the first 3 weeks he was in there, 14.6, then it dropped to 5.6, and then it dropped back up to 17.4. Over the last 2 weeks, it's been 2.75 and 6 yards per target. So even when they're looking to get him the ball, it's not for much. It's not for much yardage, and that's going to end up being an issue for you. Now, we always talk about it. There's not a crazy amount of tight ends. If you're looking at a Greg Dulcich in season long, I'm really not sure who you have left, but I would temper your expectations if you have to play Greg Dulcich. If you have the ability to sit him and find somebody else, I would do that this upcoming week. Today,
right now.
Today, in literally like an hour and 40 minutes.
Like get him the F out of here, okay? Just get him, like cut it out, like Joey Gladstone type of stuff, That's what we're here. All right, that's our starts. That's our sits. Let's answer Dante's question before we get personal.
Dante, what up, Dante?
This that dude right here. Nico Collins, Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, it's Nico Collins for me. I don't trust Jarvis. To me it's Nico Collins. I think Jarvis Landry has a chance to be one of those 6 for 44 type days, but I think the upside goes to Nico Collins. He'll see targets, plus they'll be playing from behind. They'll have to throw the ball. I'm a Nico Collins
guy. I think I might go Jarvis Landry on this one. The Texans are starting Kyle Allen today, and while he's had himself some time and played some quarterback in this league, it's a QB shift, and you can hope for the spark and the happiness. But I'm going to lean on the side that he just hasn't done it much. I think Andy Dalton and his veteranship, and what Jarvis Landry brings to the table, 3rd week healthy, good to go. I'd go that route today.
All right, there's your answer.
We didn't help you at all, Dante, did we? You know who to listen to.
Sorry.
Hey, Dante, you know who to listen to.
If I had to split this, I would go with Nico Collins. I'm avoiding a Jarvis Landry. Like I just don't think that's a stable shot that you have. You're on the road in San Francisco. I just don't. And both these secondaries are allowing very similar points to the wide receiver position in terms of fantasy. The Niners rank 21st in fantasy points allowed. The Dolphins rank 14th. Like it's not too far off, but like I do think it matters, that long trip, the road game. I think that matters a lot here. I think Nico Collins is starting to become the number 1 in that offense. And I think
it's just about volume. Like Jarvis is not going to see the volume. He's not going to, and he's not a big touchdown threat. Nico Collins is a red zone threat. I think the upside is very much in Nico Collins' favor, and then the floor, they're both probably have the same floor, which is basically nothing.
Yeah. There you have it, though. There's your there's your advice, Dante. If you have any more, drop in the chat, as well as everyone else watching. If you're watching right now, drop your questions in the chat. We are here to answer them. But for now, it's time to get personal. It is time to ride the gondola. That's right. It is time. Oh, you're frozen. Oh my. Oh, you good? Is he frozen on for you, Aaron, down there?
I froze because you took away my shit. I get excited.
You Elsa'd me before we even got it going. Either way, it's time for the streaming defense of the week. AJ, what you got?
All right, give me the Indianapolis Colts defense this week for the streaming D. I like their setup. I know we've talked a little bit about what's coming back on the other side. You know, my wide receiver star of the week and Michael Pittman. We talk about their secondary, but that's not where the points come from anyways. I'm talking about guys like TJ Watt, who's going to get in the backfield. You look at this defense, they've got sacks on sacks on sacks, multiple sacks in every game this season except for week 3. Last week was able to force 3 fumbles against the Philadelphia Eagles, turnovers galore for these guys. I think that's an opportunity again against a Kenny Pickett, who's been shown to turn the ball over time after time, week after week. So the Colts defense, I think, has another good shot to get above that, what we call it, 7-point threshold at the very least. I think they're good for double digits again this week. I think you can fire up the Colts defense. And I apologize. I don't know why I said TJ Watt at all when I was talking about that. I was like, wait a minute. It's because they're playing the Steelers, and that was on my mind.
Yeah.
Anyways, Colts defense will be Gucci. Fire them up. Enjoy it. You'll like it. I promise.
You don't have 20. You don't have 20 more to go down the list to give us as an honorable mention.
I've never had 20. I don't have an honorable mention today. You know, it's been a weekend, man. It's been a weekend.
All right. Well, now you only have 1. Let's see if that actually brings you some better luck than having 6 and going with 1 over.
Never had 6. I've only
ever
had 2.
Well,
every single week.
All right, that's your streaming defense for the week. Indianapolis Colts. Fire up your Colts defense. Let's go on to our sleeper of the week.
And now for your sleeper of the week.
I love it. AJ finishes the segment, but he still doesn't leave because he intros this segment.
You know what's funny? Is if I had $1 for every time AJ said, man, it's been a weekend, I wouldn't be here. I'd be balling. That's AJ's favorite line, man. It's been a weekend. Like, I feel like AJ has a whole bunch of damn weekends. Like, I don't know. Anyway, it's time for sleeper. This is a name I haven't heard much about. Wide receiver 91 in PPR leagues this year. Wide receiver 91. He's the 3rd wide receiver on his team, but he's got a huge speed, like big-time speed, big play guy. And now that Dallas Goedert is hurt, give me some Quez Watkins. That's right. I said it. I didn't stutter. Quez. That sounds like your mama calling you outside when the lights cut off. Quez, get your ass in the house. Quez Watkins, double digits in back-to-back games. I think you're going to see them start to use him more with the absence of Dallas Goedert, especially using some big play stuff. Not to mention, they're playing the Green Bay Packers, one of the better secondaries in football. You have Jair Alexander covering A.J. Brown a lot of the times. I think that's going to open up some things for Devonta Smith and Quez Watkins. Give me a big play tonight by Quez Watkins. He gets double digits, maybe 3 catches, maybe gets 60 yards, maybe gets in the end zone. Who knows? But double-digit points tonight, Sunday Night Football. Big time Quez Watkins. Yo, Quez!
Yo, Quez Watkins, man. That was you digging into the and the what we categorize as a sleeper and a successful sleeper is double digits. So that's like
double digits back-to-back weeks. This is what I did with Donovan Peoples-Jones. I've actually been hitting my sleeper a lot of weeks. Like I've been good on the sleepers this year. So ride with me because I hit Kate Otten, I hit Donovan Peoples-Jones. There was a couple other people I hit. I don't remember them all, but we'll have to go back and check and start tracking my record. But I'm pretty good this year.
Yeah, I don't hate this. Packers rank in terms of wide receivers fantasy points. In terms of matching up against wide receivers, they do allow the big plays. They're bottom 12 of the league in terms of 20-plus yard passing plays. It fits. Let's help Carter out here. I'll bring AJ back on to help Carter out. Are we fitting in Najee Harris this week or David Montgomery?
Whew.
I lean David Montgomery on this one. Both going to be some volume plays. We know that's been the thing with Najee at the very least, even if the production hasn't been where we wanted because his style of running, the volume has been there. That's what you're going to see for David Montgomery at this point, out of a solid necessity. Khalil Herbert on IR, Justin Fields probably not playing. They're going to lean on David Montgomery today to generate some offense. I think I would go David Montgomery's route.
Oh, man. Tough. I think I slightly lean Montgomery. I do think he's going to get some work out of the passing game that he hasn't gotten because it's not Justin Fields. And I think that's where the difference is going to come in here. I think David Montgomery is going to get the checkdowns that he hasn't been getting with Justin Fields because Justin Fields is that dude and he just be running around and doesn't really need to throw the check down in that instance. But if you look back to what David Montgomery was doing at the end of last year, the end of the year before, or the end of the year before last year, a lot of it was the passing game. There was a stretch last year where he went 9, 7, 6, 9 targets. I think you start to see that without Justin Fields. He had a good game last week. I'm leaning David Montgomery slightly. I think it's close, but I probably would, if I had to play one and just like gun to my head play one, probably going to lean David Montgomery slightly. It's close. I think Najee Harris is a safer play, but I like David Montgomery's upside.
Yeah, you got Najee Harris ranked ahead of David Montgomery in your rankings this week. You have Najee at 12 and David Montgomery at 16. But yeah, I think
Najee is definitely a safer play, in my opinion, because the Jets' defense is really good. But I think David Montgomery does have more upside when you talk about what his projected total could be if everything goes right.
Yeah, so load up your David Montgomery there. Carter, we appreciate the comment. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. All right, that does it for our sleepers. That does it for our streamers. It's time to debut a brand new segment here that we're trying out on the show. Lock it up, gentlemen. We're doing locking it up. This is where we give you guys 3 picks each of locked and loaded fantasy players or players in general. This is where if you pick a fantasy player, it's a lock that they hit their projected total that we have here. And for me, I'm actually going the gambling route this week. I am giving you your locked and loaded bets. You two gentlemen went fantasy. I went bets. So when you're talking fantasy, these are the guys that are going to hit their projected totals. Aaron, let's start with you. Who are your lock it up picks for the week?
Well, my first lock it up pick for the week is not even on the sheet, Vinny, because I just got a notification that Las Vegas has released the odds for Odell Beckham landing spot, and it's Dallas 2-1. So lock that up. ODBJ going to Dallas. That's what I'm talking about. Lock it up, Cowboys, baby. Anyways, let's get to this fantasy talk. No, my first lock it up pick is Rachaad White. I've mentioned him a number of times already through the beginning part of the show. Rachaad White today, no Leonard Fournette. We're just getting Gio Bernard back. Keyshawn Vaughn's still there, but I think we saw a week before the bye what they want to do with Rachaad White. 22 carries. I think they want to run the ball against a porous Cleveland Browns defense. This is a good spot for him. If there's ever a better spot, please show me, because I think this is where we find out whether Rachaad White is going to be the future for what Tampa Bay wants to do or not. I think this is one of those situations where if he goes out and he has 60 to 70% of the snaps, sees the bulk of the touches, I think where we know where this is going. And if you were fortunate enough to get him in dynasty leagues or even in redraft and have the ability now to play him going forward in the playoffs, I think this Tampa Bay offense is going to start to get things going. I know the offensive line is bad, but it's Tom Brady, and they find a way. And I think that this is a kind of a sign of things to come. Give me some Rachaad White, 14.4, more than 14.4 points. Lock it up.
You just go one. We go one at a time.
Oh! Did you want all of them?
Yeah, give it. Yeah, it's a 3-pack. It's a 3-pack.
Oh, 3-pack. Okay, number 2. Well, I didn't want to be soloed for that long.
Yeah, it's a 3-pack. It's a 3-pack.
My number 2, lock it up, is Devonta Smith. I just mentioned Quez Watkins being my sleeper. Part of that is because the Green Bay Packers have Jair Alexander. Jair Alexander, I anticipate follows A.J. Brown a majority of the time. Not all the time because they do have Devonta Smith, but I think a beneficiary of that is Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith's projected total 12.2 points. I think he goes over that total. I think Philadelphia is going to throw the ball because that's what they really, really want to do. Sometimes they can get away from the run. And I think this game is going to be a little bit tighter than people want to really think about. Aaron Rodgers is banged up, though. That could be a big deal if Philly does get ahead. But give me Devonta Smith, 7 catches, 70 yards, 6 catches, 80 yards, some 14 points, something over 12.2. Devonta Smith, lock it up. And then last, welcome back, Gerald Everett. For me, Gerald Everett is a nice tight end play here. His projected total is 9 points. I'm also taking the over on that. I went all overs today. Obviously, Keenan Allen's being back and Josh Palmer has stepped up, but we've seen what Gerald Everett's been for this offense when he's been in the lineup. And I think he's one of their go-to guys. Justin Herbert likes him. Before last week when they played, Kansas City last week? Before last week when they played, prior to the 49er game, 8 targets, 9 targets, 7 targets. He's had 6 targets a couple of times, 10 targets, 5 catches in 4 games this season. He had a 6-catch game. He is a guy that's going to see heavy volume at the tight end position, so you have to be excited for that. The Arizona Cardinals, well, they're the Arizona Cardinals. So they're not very good. I think this is an opportunity, probably another high-scoring game. They're second worst in the league against the tight end position, averaging 13 points a game allowed. Give me some Gerald Everett in this one.
All right, locked and loaded those players to hit their fantasy projections. You can feel confident that they're going to give you exactly what they're saying they're going to give you this week, and maybe even more. Maybe even eclipse those numbers. Good weeks from those guys. They're your locked and loaded picks. AJ, what about you? Who you got?
Also went the fantasy route, and I have some guys that I enjoy to get into this double-digit realm. And the first one is going to be Mr. Donovan Peoples-Jones. This has been a guy who you've heard us talk about because I know you follow the show every single week, people. This has been a guy we've talked about for a few weeks now. Double-digit games in every game except week 5 and except week 3. I guess you can count week 2, but really I think he got injured, was out by that point in time. However, he's projected to get about 10.1 points this week, and he hasn't scored less than that since week 5. He's eclipsed 50-plus yards in every game this season since week 5. He's playing a buttload of the snaps. Anyways, a buttload of the snaps. Jacoby Brissett is looking for him. He trusts him, and I think he's in line for another great day, or at least another double-digit day. I say he's about a 15-pointer. Aaron don't want to hear that, but it is what it is. My second guy, we just talked about him a little bit, and that is David Montgomery. I think he is also going to be a lock to outdo his projection today of 12.2. I think this is – I know they're hard to predict, but I think this is a guy who's going to end up in the end zone. I think they're going to be leaning on him a lot heavy today. Trevor Siemian's probably getting the start. So without Justin Fields taking away some of the run game from him, I think they hand the ball to David Montgomery early and often. So I think you can lock him in for locking in his point total at 12.2. And then my last one is tight end Juwan Johnson of the New Orleans Saints. This guy is another one who doesn't need much to get it done. Has a touchdown in each of the last 3 weeks and 4 of the last 5 weeks as well. Double digits points in 3 of his last games. They got him projected for 7.3 points here. And despite how good San Francisco is on defense, they're not the best at getting the tight ends, somewhere around the lower middle of the pack. So I think Juwan Johnson has another good shot to maybe fall in the end zone, even if it's in garbage time when they're just like, we want to have pride and we want to make sure something happens. Hey, Juwan, go do that big body thing you do and score a touchdown for the New Orleans Saints.
We're trying our best. We're trying our best. That's what we're doing here. We're giving it our all. And DPJ might hit that spot. All right, you guys both went fantasy here. I'm going to go the gambling side of things. I'm going to give you guys a locked and loaded bet here. Aaron, I know you don't like parlays, and I guess you could parlay this together, and because it is a 3-pack that you'd get. I'll hit you with, give me DeAndre Hopkins over 7.5 receptions here against the Chargers this week. This man has been a target machine. He's been a reception machine. He's caught at least 9 passes in 4 of 5 games since returning from his suspension. He's got 32% of Arizona's targets this year. Only Devontae Adams has more, has more of a target share, seen more of a target share. He's going up against the Chargers team that is susceptible to the pass. You get Kyler Murray back. Even with Colt McCoy last week or the past few weeks, he's been seeing around 9 targets per game. You're setting this number at 7.5 receptions. I mean, he has been killing it in the receptions game. He's been a target monster. They get Hollywood Brown back in this game, and I think that only helps DeAndre Hopkins' share in his reception total. I think that opens up even more for him. And since week 7, no player has caught more passes over a 5-game span. Like, it's DeAndre Hopkins is a reception machine. You could fire him up over 7.5 receptions. I'm going to stay in the same game with my next lock, and it's the same team. It's James Conner anytime touchdown. We talk about it all the time how the Los Angeles Chargers absolutely suck against the running back position. They're down 5 starting defensive linemen in today's game against the Cardinals. That's terrible. That's bad. But then you look at the actual numbers. The Chargers defense has allowed a running back to score a touchdown every game this season. And then you look at the volume that James Conner is getting. He's the clear-cut RB1 there. 35 of 41 RB touches over the last 2 weeks. There's no more Eno Benjamin. He is the running back 1 on that team against the Chargers team that is just allowing everybody to score against them in terms of the running back position. James Conner, anytime touchdown, lock that one in. And last one here, Michael Carter, over 2.5 receptions. I know Mike White is now the starting quarterback. Aaron, you really like Garrett Wilson this week. I like Michael Carter to get involved as well at the running back position and hit that over on the 2.5 receptions. In Mike White's 2 games that he started last year, 37% of his completions were to the running back position. And Michael Carter in those games, and even in the game that Mike White came in relief, he saw 29 targets, 21 receptions. That's more than half of his receptions last year. More than half of his receptions last year came from just Mike White alone. This year, Michael Carter is averaging 8.4 yards per reception, so he's doing the damn thing when he gets the ball. Mike White is a check down king. We saw it last year with Michael Carter and Ty Johnson. We'll see it this year with Michael Carter and James Robinson. Give me over 2.5 receptions on Michael Carter. Anytime touchdown, James Conner, and D-Hop over 7.5 receptions. Bada bing, bada boom. Go win yourself some money. You're on mute.
I wasn't talking to you.
Win some money.
Oh,
yeah.
Trust in Vinny. There's no one else. Who are you talking to?
I was talking to myself. I'm doing inactives, actives, and actives. I'm putting them in the doc right now.
Yeah.
And there was a big time one, so I was talking to myself.
Let's let if the inactives are out and the actives are out, are you ready for it?
Well, I'm adding them as we go. If you want to go into the doc and look what I got so far, we can start talking about it big time. Let's do it.
Sure. Let's go into the injury report. That's right. It is time for the inactives and actives. And I don't know if this is the big one that you were talking about, but and you normally take control of this segment, Aaron. But
no, you're doing it. Go ahead.
But one of the inactives that was just released is James Robinson. James Robinson is inactive for the Jets, and I just picked Michael Carter for over 2.5 receptions. Hopefully you go and bet that right now, because if he's the only running back there, well, I mean, I have other running backs. But Michael Carter is definitely going to hit that over on that reception total. But James Robinson officially inactive for the New York Jets as they take on the Chicago Bears. Let's stay in that same game and talk about Justin Fields inactive, battling that shoulder injury. It will be Trevor Siemian as the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Zach Wilson isn't even suiting up. Like, he's not even on the field. They said, hey, Zach Wilson, you are a detriment to this team on and off the field. We don't even want you on the sideline. He's inactive. And then, of course, the news, there was hope and potential that Jamar Chase would see some action this week, but he will not play for the Bengals in their big-time matchup against the Titans. They will give him another week of rest to make sure he's back at 100% before putting him back on the field. I don't know if there's a lot of fantasy implications. I think the biggest fantasy implication to me is that James Robinson one because of Michael Carter. and maybe I'm wrong. Is there other inactives in this list that you see that has a big impact that we haven't already discussed on a fantasy option?
I think there's a couple of actives that we need to talk about, specifically the Justin Fields thing. I do think we need to speak on that a little bit more, especially when we talk about the wide receiver position. We kind of anticipated it happening, but now that it's actually happened, how does that impact guys like Darnell Mooney, who you may have wanted to throw in your flex? How does that impact Chase Claypool? Hasn't been much of anything since he's been there, but maybe a guy like that. We talked about Cole Kmet. This is going to sound crazy. But it's a terrible matchup with the Jets, and they have Sauce Gardner, so it's not a great spot to talk about this, really. But I almost think this would elevate, normal circumstances would elevate a guy like Darnell Mooney. I like the off-schedule stuff that they do, but I think there's something to be said about a quarterback that's just going to drop back, hit that back foot, and let it go. I think, you know what I mean? And Justin Fields is not that at this point. So you might see some more opportunities for Darnell Mooney to make plays because he's going to have to throw into tighter windows. Like, let's be honest, Trevor Siemian's not going to run around. So when Justin Fields sees a tight window or a space to run, what is he going to do? He's going to run. Like, that's natural instinct. Trevor Siemian can't do that. Trevor Siemian's going to have to force some balls in there, and it might give Darnell Mooney some more opportunities, but it also might give some opportunities to that Jets defense to get some interceptions. So stuff like that. And then I did want to mention, on the first name on the active list is Vita Vea for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think that is huge. And I know it's not a fantasy player, but I think that is huge in the game with Cleveland when we talk about Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and the ability to run the football. Vita Vea on the inside is one of the best in football. And when Tampa Bay has him, they're a different defense. So look for a little bit tougher sledding today for a Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I think that's a big deal as well. And as as injuries come in, you talked about Gus Edwards, more injuries are coming in as the 11:30 mark is hitting. But as of now, those have been the biggest ones.
Yeah, we already talked about Gus Edwards. He is active in this game as well. I do think, and AJ, I'll ask you, what do you think? What do you see from Nick Chubb? And let's talk about Kareem Hunt. Because Aaron, you even mentioned it on here, the impact on Chubb and Hunt. Hunt has not been very good in terms of fantasy over the past few weeks. Do you think this boosts his value? Do you think we see something from Kareem Hunt today?
I'm not a fan. I'm sorry, Kareem Hunt this season has just been too hard for me to trust. If you think respectfully, if you think Vita Vea is going to stop Nick Chubb and then they pivot to Kareem Hunt and he has to get that type of volume to make something happen. He hasn't played more than 50% of snaps since week 1. And I get it. That's how their offense works, is a heavy dose of Nick Chubb and then they hit you in the face with Kareem Hunt. But the fact is Kareem Hunt's been whiffing when he swings for the face. So I couldn't trust a Kareem Hunt in my lineup. I feel like there's other places to go. I had Kareem Hunt and I ended up trading for other people that I would end up playing over Kareem Hunt. And I would go elsewhere if I could.
I agree. I think the value for Kareem Hunt comes in the passing game, and they haven't been using him in the passing game. Simple as that. They've been pushing the ball down the field, and Jacoby Brissett is not a check down guy. He wants to push the ball down the field. He's a big arm guy, and it's not really a fit there. And I think they're kind of fading Kareem Hunt. They didn't want to trade him because he is a talent, but I'm not a big fan of Kareem Hunt either. One other name I did want to mention that we didn't really talk about today, and that's Joe Mixon. Not only the Jamar Chase injury, but Joe Mixon being out and what that does for Samaje Perine. I want people to understand, don't get too carried away with Samaje Perine. He's a very good pass catching back. I think he's going to still struggle in the run game. I think their run game struggles today. Look for guys like Samaje Perine to split time with Chris Evans, with Travion Williams. I think this is going to be a running back by committee with Perine getting the majority of the touches or at least the first lion's share. But have some expectations. He's not going to score 3 touchdowns in the passing game again. Like that, and last week was a big anomaly. I do like him today. I think you can start him, but it's a tough defense. Tennessee's defense is tough. They're banged up a little bit, but some of those guys are coming back. D'Amico Autry's out, but Jeffrey Simmons is active. I think that game's just going to be that, like, very similar to that playoff game, just tough sledding, kind of an ugly game, and just temper your expectations on Samaje Perine. He is not Joe Mixon, and So don't just think you can insert him. This is not Alexander Madison. This is not Tony Pollard that you can just insert against any matchup and it's going to be fine. You got to temper your expectations for Samaje Perine.
Yeah. As the inactives and actives keep rolling in, we will keep updating you guys on those players and the impact that it has on the fantasy world. I just had an interesting thought, and as soon as the Nick Chubb or the Vita Vea news came out, I was like, man, I want to go see what bets I can place on Nick Chubb this week. And I saw this one parlay and I know you hate parlays, Aaron, but I want to ask you on the show live anyways.
Okay.
And AJ, you of course, you give me your thoughts as well. Bucks Browns over 42.5.
Yes.
I had, sorry, you threw me for a loop. I thought you were going to ask about Nick Chubb.
Oh, I am. But the real main question is the parlay starts at the top. I'm starting at the top here. Over 42.5 in that game.
I have the under in this game.
Okay. That would throw it all off because the other two legs of that parlay is Nick Chubb anytime TD and Rachaad White anytime TD.
That can still happen and be under.
Well, that's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm saying. But the parlay would not. I would miss out if it goes under and those two still score. Then,
oh, you mean the over that you're betting the over would be?
Yeah,
I mean, it's close. I mean, listen. The reason I always say this about parlays, and Vegas ain't stupid. Vegas knows these numbers. 42.5 is a really good number. It's a tough 21. Right? You say 21-17. That's a 38-point game, right?
Yeah.
23-20, you lose. Still a tight defensive game. It's one of those things where you're really splitting hairs. I'm not a fan of over-unders that sit in the low 40s. I think those are trap plays. I rather see a super high over, and I can just bet the over knowing that there's going to be a lot of points scored, or a really low under at 38, 37, and I'll just take the under on it and rock with it. So that's kind of in that toss-up range.
It's at plus 400 odds to hit for all three of those.
Plus 400. How much were you trying to bet on it?
I am such a baby when it comes to putting in my money. I've already placed my parlay for the day, but I was thinking about going in on a $5 bet for that.
Placed my parlay. You put $5 on it, I'll roll with you. Will that make you feel better?
$5 on that parlay, the over.
You put 10 on it, I'll send you $5.
Okay.
And we just split if we win. If not, we don't.
Okay. AJ, you want in on this? Where are you at?
I mean, yeah, I'll Venmo you right now.
We go 15 and we split the 75 equally.
Oh, yay.
Hey, that's what 20.
Hopefully, sending money to your wife is okay because I just sent her $5.
Well, that's bad because one, she's probably not watching this, and two, she probably doesn't know I will be placing 2 bets this week.
That's okay. Just tell her I owed you $5.
There you go. I will.
What wifey don't know won't hurt her.
Hey, she will find out. She will find out.
Q in the comments. No.
and cue the comment. Okay, all right. Well, then I will go ahead.
I just cash app her $5.
Okay. Well, then
because you don't have Cash App.
I do have Cash App. I do.
Well, then
and Alicia just texted me. She said, "Why did Aaron just send me $5?" I knew that would happen. All right. So to avoid my dog barking any further in my microphone, let's go to. Wait, sorry, I had to yell dog here. Okay, let's shift gears here. Let's continue in the money-making business here. Let's talk about DFS, where people can make some money. Let's talk about bargain plays for our DFS matchups this week. Maybe not in our matchups specifically, but bargain plays in general. AJ, give me your bargain plays this week at the DFS side of things.
Yeah, so I got I have a couple in. How many you want? You want I put a couple in there, but I don't think you. Oh, so it's just me. I don't think you want all of them, right? So I'll give you two of the good ones that I like here. The first one I'm going to start with, maybe again low hanging fruit. Latavius Murray is a fan of mine, coming in on DraftKings at 5,000 today. And he's going to be the guy, the lead back in Denver. There is no more Melvin Gordon because he can't hold on to the ball. There is no Chase Edmonds because he tweaked his ankle, so they put him on IR. Mike Boone's an afterthought. Latavius Murray went from being on the practice squad to being the lead running back in the Denver offense. And the way Russell Wilson's been playing, it behooves them to run the ball. So at 5,000, I think that's a great bargain bet with Latavius Murray coming in there. And then if you want to go on the quarterback side, this is another good start. We talked about the potency and the offensive weapons at the deployment of Jimmy Garoppolo. He comes in at DraftKings today at 5,600. Last week, obviously, he went stupid dumb litty, one of my favorites, in a 4-touchdown game. No, I don't expect him to do that again, but I do expect him to continue being around that 17, 18, 19-point display. At 5,600, and then you add Latavius Murray at 5,000. That's only 10.6 of your $50,000 budget. I think that gives you some really good plays elsewhere. So those are two of the good bargain plays that I'm enjoying today.
I love the Latavius Murray one. He's been good, man. And it's a nice matchup there against Carolina, 27th against run defense. But he doesn't play a lot of snaps. He hasn't played a lot of snaps, but he's been highly productive. And with those injuries, I think it's big. 265 yards and 3 touchdowns during the time since he's taken over.
I think he's going to play a lot of snaps today.
He's old, I don't know how much. They are going to mix in some other guys, and they're not going to use him in passing down situations that much. But it doesn't matter. Like, he's a guy, when he's on the field, he's getting the ball. So even if he's 50% of the snaps, he's going to touch the ball on those 50% of the snaps. They're going to run it. So I like that. I think that's a good play. I have some bargains. I think I have some lower end bargain plays that people aren't really talking about. I've mentioned this guy a number of times. We talked about Derek Carr earlier. AJ start of the week. I think him at 5,700 is nice. But one of his weapons in Mac Hollins at 4,400. I really like Mac Hollins. He's been able to produce, and I think despite with no Hunter Renfrow and no Darren Waller, it's Devontae Adams, and you know what kind of attention he's going to draw. I think when you talk about Mac Hollins, he saw 9 targets a week ago, 6 catches, 52 yards, a double-digit game. He's had some duds because he runs that risk, but he's had double digits in 3 of his last 5 games, including a game where he had a touchdown against Houston. I think that's a nice play, especially in some tournaments that you might just need some production for cheap value. I think Mac Hollins could be a nice play there against Seattle. Also, really, really like Noah Fant. Told you guys about that earlier. 3,200. If you want a cheap tight end option, so you can spend up elsewhere. I think that he has some upside to have one of those big days. But Kyren Williams, this is more of him and Cam Akers are both at 4,900. They're right next to each other. But I think it's like Rams going to be behind. They're going to have to throw the ball. Kyren Williams is going to be the running back that's in the game and that's going to get stupid 7 catches for 36 yards. It doesn't go anywhere, but gets volume because the quarterback's under pressure from Chris Jones. Type of garbage points fantasy value today from Kyren Williams. But they all count the same when you're in DFS and when you're playing fantasy. So maybe if you need to, again, spend up elsewhere, you can save, put in Kyren Williams, and get some production there on a person that's probably going to be rostered in a very low percentage of leagues or tournaments because of who they're playing against in Kansas City and the running game being so poor. So Kyren Williams is a nice name there.
I wonder if any of you guys are going to be drafting your players later on today. That's what
I'll find out.
That's why Vinny likes this. Vinny gets to see everything we want, and then he gets to steal them.
He's writing down names. Ooh,
tell me who leads in our DFS things right now?
Me.
No way.
I won again last week.
Get out of town.
Yes, no I am winning. You want the scores? I totaled it all up last night when I had my day.
What is it? What is our DFS race?
Yeah, I knew you were gonna. Hey, it's funny because I knew you were gonna think you were winning. I was like, this fool probably thinks he's winning. Total, right? You're close, but you and I are close. And AJ's he's a lost soul. But right now I'm at 1434. You are at 1407, so you're down by 27 points. AJ is at 1250. And our wonderful long lost friend Dylan Kearns is still at 600.
He still has an asterisk. He doesn't play anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So there's your bargain plays. Let's talk best values. Let's talk. Aaron, you put best values and bargain plays. I feel like that's almost the same thing, but I'll let it slide. Let's talk best values here. AJ, who's your best value?
AJ just messed up.
Well, then you please take
bargain play should be bargain play or cheap options that you're not expecting like significant. Best value is the price point for exceeded value. If that makes sense.
This is why show prep is huge.
I mean, it was in there. I thought it was pretty clear. Go ahead.
So what you're saying is my best value and my bargain play of David and Njoku are flippity flop, but that's okay because I'm gonna take.
Go ahead. I'll let you.
I guess I could have gave you time to respond. I'm gonna take the David and Njoku side of my best value. This is a guy who another tight end. I guess I'm the tight end whisperer, if you will, the guy who loves the tight ends on the show. I've been talking about David and Njoku. Yeah, I knew you were going to go there because you're a child.
Hey, I'm not the one who starts two tight ends.
I've talked about David and Njoku a few different times on the show. Last week was kind of one of those games where they just kind of eased him back in, was out for a couple weeks with that injury. I think this week you see him get back to his normal play with Jacoby Brissett and back into that 7 target range. He was a guy that Jacoby Brissett looked for often, and he came through for Jacoby Brissett many times. I think you can look for that to happen again against the Bucs, who are middle of the pack when it comes to that side of things as well. 3,600 on DraftKings. I think David Njoku could be a nice, good value for you to play today at tight end.
I was waiting for his other one. I wanted you to talk about your other one because I think that to me is a great value.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about. I'll mention it. We've talked about it over and over again. Rachaad White and what he's become to that offense in the Tampa Bay Bucs. I went same game here on both sides there. I think Rachaad White's going to get to play. No Leonard Fournette. I know you mentioned Keyshawn Vaughn and mustache man whose name is Gio Bernard. Thank you. But I don't know how much they do get involved today. I think Rachaad White is going to get another heavy volume. I don't know if you see the 22 rushes again. We've seen Tom Brady does love to pass the ball. Rachaad White can also be a threat out of the backfield. So I do think Rachaad White's another great value play today, and a guy that you can look for if someone else drafts the Jeff Wilsons of the world and the Ken Walkers of the world. And clearly I'm talking to one person up there, but
what?
Yeah, we know where Vinny's going. Ken Walker, number 1 overall pick, baby.
You guys are so dumb. Like, it doesn't even like
you picked Ken Walker every week for like a month straight.
And guess what? If you give me the first overall pick, I'm drafting Ken Walker. Yeah.
So what are you calling us dumb for? Yeah. Anyways, all right, my best values are some of your best bargain plays. As I do think Latavius Murray at 5,000 is a very, very good value pick there. When we start talking about the top running backs in DraftKings, sometimes you just don't want to spend, 8,000 on a Christian McCaffrey or an Austin Eckler, 8,500. For people that are going to pick guys like Derrick Henry, and this is going to sound stupid. I'm not saying Latavius Murray is Derrick Henry, but what do they both have in common? They're going to see a high volume of carries today. They're both going to need to get into the end zone to have some fantasy value. Why not take the bargain play and go down and get a good value there at 5,000 for Latavius Murray, who has a nice, an easier matchup and is far cheaper and you can spend up elsewhere. Give me Latavius Murray as one of my best values on the day. Also, Jeff Wilson, we talked about him, 5,900. There's some cheap running backs that are in good positions. Remember, DraftKings releases their values on Tuesday. They did not know Raheem Mostert was going to be out. Now Raheem Mostert is out. Jeff Wilson's only 5,900. He's going to see the bulk of the carries against a porous Houston defense. You have to love Jeff Wilson here. And then Geno Smith, again, I have him as a top 5 quarterback play today. And in DraftKings, and you're talking about a guy who's playing against a poor defense with elite weapons on the outside and an offense that's probably going to have to score because I do think the Raiders are going to be able to put some points. Geno Smith is one of my best values as well at $6,000. Go and stack that lineup. Stacks
on stacks on stacks on stacks on stacks. All right.
Yeah, let's do stacks now.
I was gonna say, you kind of like went into it, and we do have your perfect lineup. We do have all of that.
Let's do the stacks first.
Stack it up.
All right, stacks first. I'll go with I have 2 stacks, big time stacks that I think should be played in tournaments across the board today. It is okay to get guys that people are playing if you know that they're going to hit. Tua Tagovailoa 6,900, Tyreek Hill 8,800. This is big time for me. I think Tyreek Hill is one of the better plays of the day, and I know he's the highest receiver on the board on DraftKings at 8,800. But even though 2 weeks ago he had 44 yards in a matchup where the game script was kind of a little wonky because they ran the ball a lot, 5 catches for a touchdown, came away with 38 catches, 38 receptions for 580 yards in a 4-game stretch before that. The Houston Texans don't have Derek Stingley, which should benefit them. They're also not very good against the pass. We talked about all of the things that the fantasy point wise against the pass, but they give up a ton of catches. They give up a ton of yards. They just haven't been able to get into the end zone. I think that changes here with this Miami offense. I like Tyreek Hill. I think it's going to be a big time game for him. Give me that stack there. And then my second stack is Joe Burrow and T. Higgins against Tennessee. Tennessee faces the highest volume passing attacks in the league. They see the quarterbacks throw the most against them, despite whether they're successful or not. No Jamar Chase. I think T. Higgins has a nice day here, and Joe Burrow is just going to, as a result of volume alone, throw his way into some big time fantasy numbers. Give me that stack as well.
AJ, stack it up.
All right, I got the one here. I'm going. Just talked about the Browns. I'm staying there. I think this offense has some chances today against the Tampa Bay Bucks. Give me Jacoby Brissett and Amari Cooper. These guys have been finding each other pretty well over the last couple of weeks. You look at what Jacoby Brissett did against Buffalo, finished with 29.8 DraftKings points. I think this offense has a chance to have to put up more points again. Now that out of a bye, Tom Brady normally figures things out, and this offense out of the bye with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and all those weapons can probably start putting together a very decent, potent plan. So I look for the Cleveland Browns to have to come back and hit hard as well. And Amari Cooper has been doing that all season long. You look at it, he has 400-yard games, 5 games above 20 DraftKings points. Between him and Jacoby Brissett, I think that's a pretty decent stack. Then if you are a bring-back type of person, meaning you want somebody on the other side of the team to offset some of those points, you can look at Chris Godwin at 6,000 as well and bring that into your lineup and have a good set on both sides of that offense.
Stack it up.
Stack it.
That's what that segment's going to be called. We're going to call that stack it up. We're going to call that stack it up 100%. All right, that does it for our stack it up. Does it for our bargains. That does it for our best values. Aaron, let's put it all together in the perfect lineup.
Yeah, got to put it all together in the perfect lineup. I mentioned it. Give me Tua and Tyreek. I'm going to stack. If you want to play a tournament play here, I think this is a good tournament lineup here. Stack it up with Tua and Tyreek Hill against that poor Houston defense. I think that Tyreek Hill finds another big day here. He's been killing everybody. This is what I worried about with Jeff Wilson, is just not having, maybe that they just go crazy heavy in the pass game and Tua and Tyreek Hill have a big day there. Rachaad White, I mentioned him. Great value plays at the running back position here for me with 5,100 and Latavius Murray at 5,000. Again, I think I can get Derrick Henry type production today from Latavius Murray. I'm not saying a 200-yard day, but I think Latavius could go close to 100 and get in the end zone. I think that would be a nice bargain there. So those two at my running back position. My other 2 receivers, Michael Pittman, Curtis Samuel. Michael Pittman at 6,000. Pittsburgh's defense is poor. AJ had him as one of his start wide receivers. We talked about how good of a play that could be on a Monday Night Football game where they're going to probably have to let it air out a little bit because we know that offensive line's bad, even though Jonathan Taylor should have a nice day as well. Curtis Samuel, I mentioned him. I thought that was a nice little play against Atlanta. Terry McLaurin's going to have to see much of A.J. Terrell. I think they use Curtis Samuel in some good spots, maybe get him involved in a couple end arounds, throw some bubble screens out to him, and maybe he gets a big play there. Pat Freiermuth in that same game on Monday night, AJ talked about it. The connection between him and Kenny Pickett over the middle of the field against that Colts defense with no Darius Leonard. He's been his favorite target. Pat Freiermuth should be a benefit of Stephon Gilmore being locked up on one of those outside receivers. Again, AJ mentioned Amari Cooper, 6,400. I'm not taking the quarterback there, but I will take the receiver against Tampa in a game where I do think they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit. So give me Amari Cooper. And I thought this was a great play here with the Chiefs defense against the Rams. It's not the bottom of the barrel, but it's also not one of the highest rated defenses on DraftKings, only 2,800. I thought this was a smash when I first saw this. I was like 2,800, or I could have the Raiders defense at 2,600. No, thank you. I'll take Chiefs defense against a backup quarterback and no weapons on the outside. No Allen Robinson. Chiefs defense, give me that.
Yeah, that was a smash play. That value is too juicy. I'm shocked that wasn't in any of your best values. I know that you don't want to talk about defenses as values. Like it's not that.
It definitely is it is definitely a good value.
Yeah,
that I saw that and I didn't even think twice about where I was.
But something you said on Friday though, when we were previewing this game, about how the Chiefs would almost want it to be Matthew Stafford at quarterback because you don't know what to expect with Bryce Perkins. Does that kind of come into play here?
It could. The running of the quarterback position could come into play. I just think ultimately in Kansas City, I mean, if he does, great, but I can't predict that.
That's fair.
I'm just expecting Bryce Perkins to just be like, what do I have to lose mentality, and just, I mean, he again, I know it was preseason, but he was impressive. I liked what I saw from him, and I liked the talent, but it should be, I'm excited to watch that game. I really am.
Let's get into our Draft Kings showdown. Let's hear from the bird.
What are you talking about? Oh, have you not heard? It was my understanding that everyone had heard. Heard what? Brian, don't! Oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. A bird, a word, a well, a bird, bird, bird. A bird, a word, a well, a bird, bird, bird.
Let's do it. It's time for our Draft Kings showdown, where we draft our Draft Kings lineup. Week by week, we see who comes out on top between the 3/4 of us sometimes. Aaron, you won last week. You get to decide the order here. And I do want to implement a new fun thing and see what you guys think about it, because we're on the show. It's fun. We can talk about these type of things. I think there should be some type of punishment for either last place, or there should be there should be a punishment for either last place or the two people who don't finish first, or three people who don't finish first. Whether that be like first place not only gets to decide the order, but gets to make a pick for them, or something along those lines. Something. Yeah,
but that's a disadvantage every week. Once one person wins, that person that wins has an advantage every week of another advantage, not only picking the selection, but then getting to pick some trash player.
Then don't lose. Fine, we'll workshop this after the show. We'll workshop this.
I'm okay with a punishment, but I don't think a punishment that affects the next week's picks outside of getting to select who goes first is really a thing.
We'll workshop this. Aaron, you do get to decide the order this week. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. I am the king. I am the king of DK. I do get to pick who goes first, who goes second, who goes third, because I did win last week, and I am ahead in the standings if you haven't noticed. But this week, I'm going to do what I always do. I'm taking the first pick. I'm going to take the first pick because I want to be able to dictate the tempo like a real offense should. And second pick is going to be Vinny, and third pick is going to be AJ. And
wait, pause.
Yeah.
Hold on. I have something for you.
It is very hard being right all the time. I'm a little bit darker than that guy, and I have more hair.
I'll go into Photoshop and I'll just turn the brightness.
I wasn't sure why you had a picture of Mac McDonald on your
PC.
But
him and the Empire had a baby.
Yeah, I'm going to take the number one pick, and I'm going to go different than what you guys probably expect, but probably not. I am taking the only player that always should be picked first, and I'm taking Travis Kelce. Don't care what anybody says. The difference at tight end and Travis Kelce versus any other position in the NFL is not close. So give me Travis Kelce.
I don't need to even go because you guys already know my pick. I wasn't kidding. I am going to take Ken Walker as my first pick.
Hey, the most predictable man on the planet.
Don't care.
Both of my picks.
I think I've proven that I am good at DFS. I think that it does that, even if it's a joke that I do this. Last year I won our DFS challenge This year, I'm right in the thick of it as well.
You're you're definitely better than me. Like I'll own that on here. Like DFS for me, this is all brand new over the past year. So I am still learning a lot, but I'm a quick learner, and as you could tell, it only took me 1 year, baby. Let's go.
No, it only took me 1 year. AJ, you got back-to-backs.
I do. I am going to take the Jeff Wilson Jr. conversation. And honestly, I enjoyed. Man, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go ahead and grab my quarterback as well. I'm going to get Geno Smith.
Okay, I will. You guys talked and you guys talked a lot about this player during the show, and I said yesterday to myself, I'm like, there's no way I want a DFS lineup without Michael Pittman Jr. in my lineup. I think the matchup is great against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that he's been getting the targets there in Indianapolis. That combined with Matt Ryan being the quarterback, I think it's going to be a good play for Michael Pittman against the 31st best defense in the NFL.
Can I ask you guys a question?
True.
Sure.
Hold on. Vinny, did you send me the thing? Oh, is that it? Sorry,
the most recent invitation. Yeah, I know I have that reacurring nonsense, but I just don't worry about that. Just do the one.
Can you please turn that off eventually? Anyways, okay. My pick, right?
That would be it.
You said you took Michael Pittman.
Michael Pittman.
Okay, I am taking Rachaad White, as I mentioned before. I think he's a must-smash play in this one. And then I am also taking the Kansas City Chiefs defense.
It's funny. The show really tells a lot about what we're going to do in our DFS plays. It really mentions a lot of our picks, and I would be ashamed of myself if I didn't at least take one of my parlay picks in my DFS plays. I will take Michael Carter.
So trash. So trash.
The cornerback Michael Carter.
Oh, okay. That's much better. Thank you. I was really worried. It's cool. I had a built-in flex there. All right. So I have Jeff Wilson and Geno Smith as of right now. I'm going to go ahead and grab DK Metcalf to pair up with Geno and give me a high-price, talented wide receiver in the bring back of Devontae Adams.
All right. I will go with another wide receiver. I will take Terry McLaurin.
I am going to take my stack here. Which stack am I going to take?
Damn. I know you normally go with the low-cost quarterbacks. So I was like, let me take my stack first before he takes his stack. And that's what I've slowly been starting to do. But then if you were going with that, like you have two, never mind. Go ahead.
My stack here is Joe Burrow and T. Higgins.
Okay. Yeah. That's the one I got to take off my list. The first one I have to take off my list and T. Higgins. Then I will punt on my quarterback position because I clearly do not need it. You know what? I already took Terry McLaurin. I'm not going to punt on my quarterback position because oh man, that's terrible strategy. AJ, do you have your tight end yet?
No.
I will go with I'll go with my tight end and I'll go with the Muth of the Loose, Pat Freiermuth.
So trash. Just you guys just decimated my entire lineup.
Yeah. So that's how it feels to be on the other side of this. Remember, like 2 weeks ago, I was like, "You guys are taking my perfect. What would have been my perfect lineup?"
I don't remember anything.
Yeah, must have been your busy weekend.
Yeah, probably. All right. Well, in for two here. Give me Donovan Peoples-Jones and give me Latavius Murray.
It's funny because now that I'm in that spot, I realize I've had the money to get the other tight end I really wanted, but I'm going to stick with the Muth. I'll go with Amari Cooper.
Whoa. Took my guy.
Oh, okay. I thought you already had him. I was like, wait a second. I don't remember hearing him.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I will go with. I'm gonna go with James Conner.
Anytime touchdown guy right there.
And then I'm going to go with a little deep, put that ass to sleep. DeAndre Carter.
Ooh, okay. All right. AJ, you got your defense yet?
Pay attention. I gave you one like an idiot.
I don't think you do. I don't think you do.
All you will.
I will take no, I won't take my defense yet. I'm gonna take Christian Kirk.
All right. This is my last two, I think. So no.
You have
okay. Yeah. All right. Last running back, I am gonna grab Antonio Gibson. And then I will take my tight end, David Njoku. That value pick.
I will go with I'll go with my defense here, and I will go with the New York Jets defense.
Oh, that would have been smart.
Whoa, breaking news. Nathan Peterman is starting because Trevor Siemian hurt his oblique in warm-ups.
Shut up. Oh, no.
Who
and
said
you
that?
Just get the Jets defense?
Where did that tweet come from? Oh, my goodness. There it is.
From Mike Garofalo.
Tom Pelissero.
Wow.
Jeez.
Everybody.
Wow. What a
Jets
great pick by
defense,
you.
fire them up. Fire the
On
Jets defense up.
there.
Let's go.
Jeez. Wild. I want to cry a little bit.
I am going to go. I'm gonna go pretty steady here. I'm going. Oh, do I want to do? Yeah, I'm gonna go Hollywood Brown. I'm gonna take the chance.
Hollywood.
I'm gonna go Hollywood Brown here. 5,300. Don't love the play, but
How much is he?
53. And then my last pick I am going to take is Brandon Cooks in that Miami game. I'm gonna take Brandon Cooks at 5,200, and I'm gonna rock with that. Since you guys took a couple of my guys at the end.
I have one spot left to fill on my
shout out, yeah, man, Skeptic. What's up, buddy? Welcome, first timer. Hey, drop those start sit questions. We got you right now. What we're doing DFS plays right now. Vinny's gonna pick his last player. Yep,
I've got my last pick here. I will be taking my quarterback position, and I will go with Taylor Heineke.
You went with the stack, Taylor Heineke and Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, the gross stack. I don't feel good. I don't feel good about it.
What you got,
I will
AJ?
take my last pick, and it is the defense of the Denver Broncos against Carolina.
Oh, no.
Happy enough with that. And why are you sad now?
I just realized I had more money for the other quarterback than I wanted.
Anyways. Wow. So PPR league, Najee Gibson or P. Ryan? AJ, where you at on this?
So I'm fading the P Ryan of it. I think that's a very hyped position from last week.
I'm fading the P Ryan.
I like Najee. I do like Najee in this game. The volume is going to be there for him. I think he can kind of keep his I don't want to say streak going, but he's been better as of late, and I think that continues here. I would take him slightly over Gibson because I do think Gibson's going to get to play in Atlanta.
I'm gonna be honest. This is tough for me. This is I want to say I like Najee and Gibson both over P. Ryan. I would say it depends on what you're looking for. But I think P. Ryan's not a bad player. I probably lean towards Najee as well, though.
The volume, I mean, 40 attempts in the last 2 weeks. It's insane. And I do think Kenny Pickett's going to get in trouble. Yeah. I think the way you have it listed is the order. Najee, then Gibson, then P. Ryan.
Yeah.
Is there any thought to maybe P. Ryan has the value in the passing game today because of the lack of inability to run against Tennessee and then Joe Burrow's finding him? Like, I wonder about that. Like, could he go 12 to 15 carries for 60 yards, maybe not get in the end zone, but also then add in 5 or 6 catches for another 40? Like, that's what I worry about that. Maybe the upside is there for P. Ryan, and I'm only thinking about it in the run game. I'd probably go Najee, then Pirine, then Gibson.
Do you think today's just a harder day than we're actually expecting for the Bengals against the Tennessee defense? I mean,
sure, but I still think the fantasy value could be there for him if he's still one touching the ball. So if he's getting 12 carries, 50, 60 yards, maybe 12 to 15 carries, and then he's getting another 4 to 5 out of the backfield and the passing game, even if he doesn't score, you're gonna find yourself having a 15-point day there. And that's, I think, the volume of Pirine might be a benefit here. And I think the only other person that gets the volume like that is Najee, maybe. So I think I'm probably leaning towards a toss-up between Najee and Pirine. Yeah.
I think something to be said is never mind. I'm not even going to say it. I think I'm going to sound stupid if I do.
I mean, what else is new? Just do what you always do.
No, I was going to say, I don't know if Chris Evans is playing today for the Bengals, but I think that him in the past, what?
Why wouldn't he?
He hasn't played the past like 2 weeks, I think, for concussion.
Yeah, I know he's back today.
Is he back? Okay, that's what I'm. Yeah. That's what he had. I think it was a concussion and he's had it was his knee. Okay,
the reports yesterday they said he's playing.
Knee is good to go for Sunday's Week 12 game against Tennessee. I just think I think you talk about the passing game. I think the style of play that the Bengals run. I think you do see more of a 2-back setup this week. I do like Pirine. I'm not saying I don't like Pirine this week, but I think you talk about in the passing game. I think. Don't be surprised if you see Chris Evans step in and steal some touches away from Pirine that makes you go, oh shit, what is happening? And not to mention the and I don't want to contradict everything you guys said because you guys are the analyst here, but the Falcons against the running back position hasn't been good this year either, and that's Antonio Gibson's matchup. So it's like I think I would lean what you said originally, where it's Najee, Gibson, Pirine.
To me, Najee's the safe play. I think Najee's the more consistent, safe play. That's probably where you should be going. But as I always say, context matters. What you feel like is in your lineup and you need matters. If you need a big game, you might have to shoot for the fences. You might need to think about something else. But if you just want, hey, I need some solid production here from my RB2, which I'm assuming those guys are the way they were kind of drafted at this point, then that plays probably Najee.
Yeah, I agree. And also, oh man. I'm just looking at more reasons on why Antonio Gibson and finding more reasons why that Antonio Gibson is the guy.
Answer.
Because not only is Atlanta terrible against the run, over the past 3 weeks they've allowed the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL.
That could also be Brian Robinson.
It could be, and that's the thing.
That's the problem is the carries go to Brian Robinson and sometimes, especially around the red zone. Gibson, but is involved in the pass game. Gibson's great, very underrated Gibson.
That's the only reason why I was hesitant to say that last one because that's rushing. That's rushing touchdowns, and that is more so Brian Robinson than Antonio Gibson, which would almost lead you to say, okay, it's a B-Rob day and not an Antonio Gibson day. But we have it right. There's your answer. We've given it all we've got, Captain. We've given it all we've got.
For sure. All right, let's recap this DFS.
Yep. Go ahead.
My wonderful DFS team, which would have looked better had I got my original lineup, is Joe Burrow, James Conner, Rachaad White. Love Rachaad White today. Hollywood Brown coming back. I'm trusting it. That's one of probably my most questionable play there. T. Higgins for the stack. DeAndre Carter, more of a dart throw there, but I do think that's going to be a higher scoring game. As you can tell, I got 3 players from that Cardinals-Chargers game. Travis Kelce can never go wrong. I told you the biggest game changer in all of fantasy sports, whether it's DFS or regular, the biggest jump from 1 to 2 is Travis Kelce to everybody else. Brandon Cooks and my Chiefs defense against the Rams with backups.
Yeah.
The Rams practice squad.
Well, just decimated all year long. Next man up, same man down. I'm assuming I'm next, or
technically you wouldn't have been, but it's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, well, normally you just want to be last, so I was just going to.
No, it goes in order of the draft order, but it's okay.
Go ahead. That's cool. I don't want to take his
spotlight. Oh my gosh, can you guys just go?
AJ, what's your team look like?
I got Geno Smith at the QB position, Antonio Gibson in my DFS lineup, as we just talked about him. I do like that matchup. We talked ad nauseum in a great way about Jeff Wilson Jr. No Raheem Mostert today against one of the worst defenses in the league at Houston. I got Devontae Adams as a wide receiver, and we know Derek Carr's going to love his number one receiver. DK Metcalf to put together with Geno. Donovan Peoples-Jones, a double-digit monster over the last couple weeks. David Njoku, I think today's his second game back healthy. I think they look for him in a decent way. Latavius Murray, the only running back really in the backfield for the Denver Broncos against Carolina, and then the Denver Broncos defense against a bad offense in Carolina. When you say it out loud, I like that. I like that lineup.
I feel like we didn't talk enough about Latavius Murray today. I think that's a good play. I think Latavius Murray is a good play.
We literally said his name.
Did we?
5 times and talked about him in every DFS segment we had. Best values.
All right.
Bargain plays.
I digress.
Stacks.
I'm going to do something that I don't care what you guys say because I'm the host of the show and I can do whatever I want. I've switched up my quarterback here and put the quarterback, a different quarterback in. Trevor Lawrence is my quarterback. Michael Carter, Ken Walker, Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin.
You say Trevor Lawrence is your quarterback?
Yep.
Sure. Okay.
Trevor Lawrence, Michael Carter, Ken Walker, Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, Michael Pittman Jr., the Muth is loose, Pat Fryermuth, Christian Kirk, and the New York Jets defense. That does it for another episode of Pigskin and Pancakes presented by Sac City Podcast. We'll be back again live tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern time right here on YouTube. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think of the show. Drop your comments. Drop your start-sit questions. After the show, if you have them, drop them in the chat. We will still be here to answer them through the comment world. But best of luck to you all, except for the ones that I'm playing against. And that does it for another episode of Sac City Podcast. We'll be back here tomorrow. For my best friend Aaron Mukes and for your boy AJ Johnson, I am me. We'll see you tomorrow.
Peace out.
Holla.